and we are going through the debate of this legislature, which is the debate on vote number 4, which is the department led by Honorable Pillay. We are conducting this debate through the virtual means. You are reminded, honorable members, that this debate will be conducted in terms of the rules of the virtual meetings, which is applicable to all virtual meetings, which could be read with conjunction with the existing rules of our legislature. On the question of the quorum, when we talk about present members, we mean the attendance of a member in a virtual meeting by electronic means in a manner that allows the member to join and participate in the meeting, and those who are coming physically. Our standing rules further provide that a majority of the members of a committee constitute a quorum. The table staff, honorable members, that's why I was waiting for Mshazi, have confirmed that we have reached the required number of members present in order to commence with this session. The meeting is therefore properly constituted and may formally continue.
Okay.
To honorable members who are connected, before we proceed with the budget debate, I must reiterate the ruling of the Speaker of the Legislature relating to addressing connectivity problems. The Speaker has ruled that the following measures will be adopted to try and assist honorable members who may not be able to participate due to connectivity issues. The first issue is that if a member has connectivity problems, the presiding officer will continue with other speakers on the speakers list for the debate. If the members regain connectivity before the response to the debate has commenced, the presiding officer will be flexible in applying the speakers list, and the member will be allowed to continue and finalize his or her speech as long as the member reconnects prior to the commencement of the response to the debate. Secondly, we also ask honorable members who are debating to allocate a fellow party member who will be able to take over when the member speech and read the member speech. The presiding officer will then allow the fellow member to take over. It happened yesterday in one party, so we have the experience of that. If all else fails and the member is unable to present his or her speech or to get another party member to take over, it is directed that the member may submit his or her speech to the Secretary of the Legislature, and the speech will be included in the record of the debate. Honorable Mshengu experienced that in the morning, and he ordered as I am ordering at the moment. If a member does have connectivity problems, we will follow the above guidance to try and assist the member. I hope that this is in order, honorable member. Members not debating are reminded at all times to mute their microphones and switch off their cameras. Also, honorable members are requested to take care of any noise in the background that interferes with the broadcast of the proceedings. Honorable members, we are now going to proceed with the debate that is on the agenda, which is the debate on vote number 4. So this is the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. That's what we are going to do. And we also want to indicate to you that we are reliably informed that the report by the chairpersons were submitted to the legislature. So, honorable members, we are now starting with the debate. Firstly, we are going to invite the Honorable MEC of Edtea in KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable R.R. Pillay. He is allocated 45 minutes to table his budget speech. Honorable MEC, this is your opportunity.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the sitting, our Honorable Premier in absentia, Honorable members of the Executive Council who are present, Honorable members of the August House, representatives of all our social partner formations, Your Worships, the mayors who may be present, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is my singular honor and privilege to present this 2021-22 budget policy statement for the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. Before I go any further, allow me to quote a verse from the poem, Still I Rise, by one of the greatest American poets, Maya Angelou. And I quote, out of the hut of history's shame I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Honorable members, we are rising to fulfill the dreams and hopes of all the citizens of this province, irrespective of their class, race, gender, and spatial location. We are rising to fight inequality, poverty, and unemployment. We are rising to radically transform this economy to equitably serve and benefit its entire citizenry. We are rising to undo the devastation visited upon our economy and livelihoods by the COVID-19 pandemic. We present this budget during a year we have dedicated to celebrating two outstanding icons of our country, Umama Charlotte Maxeke and Dr. John Langalibalele Dube, the founding president of the African National Congress. These outstanding leaders, born 150 years ago, dedicated their lives, resources, and skills to the noble cause of the upliftment of the marginalized. It is well known that Dube founded the Oshlanga Institute, which was modeled along the Tuskegee Institute in the USA as a vehicle of empowering young black people. The same could be said about Charlotte Maxeke, who also founded a school in Everton. We draw inspiration from the lives of these two leaders as we rise and roll up our sleeves for the work that lies ahead. This task of transforming and growing our economy remains even more urgent now as the COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the fissures that exist in our society. We know that the task will not be easy and will draw critics, but we are spurred on by the words of Dr. Dube, who said, and I quote, "Many are the difficulties I foresee in our way. Enemies without, fierce and frank, dangers within, unsigned perhaps, but still more harmful. It will be an uphill fight, but our watchword shall be excelsior, onward, higher, cautiously, ploddingly. By dint of our perseverance, our patience, our reasonableness, our law-abiding methods, and the justice of our demands, all these obstacles shall be removed and enemies overcome." Close quote. Although uttered in a different context, these words ring true today. We understand that the recovery will be gradual and will require our patience and perseverance. The COVID-19 pandemic and the consequences of over a year of constrained growth and various forms of restrictions have come at a huge cost, not only to the KwaZulu-Natal economy, but to the entire country and globe alike. Household incomes have drastically gone down. Many small businesses have closed down. Large companies have downsized or even liquidated. Revenues have significantly reduced. The painful reality is that valuable lives have also been lost, livelihoods evaporated, dignity dissipated, opportunities disappeared, and many, many are unemployed. Honorable members, we have been inspired by the resilience of our citizens in weathering this storm. People have refused to bow down and accept the ravages of this pandemic as their fate. Instead, our citizens have risen up and partnered with their government in pushing back the frontiers of this monster. They've done this firstly by adhering to the health regulations, which have greatly contributed to slowing the spread of the virus. Secondly, people have innovated in how they work, socialize, and interact with each other. They have embraced virtual platforms of engagement. Lastly, they have rolled up their sleeves and worked to rebuild their lives and businesses. Still, the people of KwaZulu-Natal continue to rise. There can be no greater call than one that seeks to restore the livelihoods of our people, restore the dignity of people, and regenerate hope. In restoring the livelihoods, we have to be alive to the realities of high inequalities that exist in our nation. Hence, our unwavering commitment to radically transform the economy of our province to benefit all its citizens, irrespective of race, age, gender, and spatial location, remains sacrosanct. In February, the Premier of a province, Premier Sihle Zikalala, outlined the provincial program of action in the State of the Province address presented under the theme, Quickening the Tempo to Economic Recovery and Job Creation. Today, I will attempt to outline the specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound plans of our department to resuscitate our provincial economy. It is befitting that this budget speech is tabled under the theme, and I quote, rising above constraints towards a sustainable, growing, and transformed economy, close quote. This theme is informed by the reality that while we are not out of the woods yet, we remain hopeful of rising above the economic constraints. Fueling this hope is the vaccine rollout program and the resilience shown by some of the sectors of our economy. We remain convinced that the time to embark on the reconstruction of the economy is now. Honorable members, please indulge us as we commence to traverse this journey by analyzing the economic terrain which we have to operate under. We've heard it several times, but it bears repeating because it is the sober reality. The global economic environment is constrained by a number of headwinds, chief of which is the disruption of overall economic activity on the back of COVID-19. That disruption is strongly reflected in our recent economic statistical releases. In KwaZulu-Natal, there were 890,000 people who reported willingness to work but could not find jobs in the fourth quarter of 2019. This figure rose to 1,034,000 in the fourth quarter of 2020, giving a narrow unemployment rate of 29.6%. But when the 756,000 non-searching unemployed, which is discouraged work seekers, are included, unemployment increases to a 46% by the expanded definition. Even though the province reported a quarter-on-quarter net increase of 66,000 jobs following the gradual easing of lockdown measures, the number is too low to absorb the disproportionately rising demand for jobs. On the output side, global economic growth is expected to rebound to 5.5% in 2021 before moderating slightly to 4.2% in 2022, spurred again by the expected rollout of the vaccine and other additional policy initiatives. China is expected to grow at 8.1% in 2021, while India will achieve growth rate of 11.5% over the same period. Sub-Saharan Africa is forecast to grow by 3.2%, and in this context, the South African economy is expected to rebound by 3.3% this year, following a 7.2% contraction and average 1.9% in the outer 2 years. But we are saying that by our actions, we can impact on these projections for the better. Honorable members, there's a saying that not all storms come to destroy. Some come to clear your path. What this pandemic has done is to force all countries to look inwards, and in our case, this has cleared our path to implement, amongst other things, localization that will hasten the transformation of our economy. We are seeing the willingness of all social partners, including major companies with global supply chains, prepared to localize their value chains, or at least a significant part of it. Honorable members, we are tabling this budget policy speech on the back of a historic signing of our social compact. The provincial compact was entered into by government, labor, business, and civil society as a practical expression of a united effort towards economic recovery. In the social compact, we disaggregated our economy to 14 sectors, namely, and they are listed alphabetically, not in order of priority: agriculture and agro-processing, clothing and textiles, creative industries, finance and services, fourth industrial revolution, ICT and innovation, health, innovation and manufacturing, industrial development, the informal sector, infrastructure development, trade and investment, manufacturing, mining and mineral beneficiation, the oceans economy, and tourism. This is a new dashboard for us because we're going to measure what we're doing according to each of these sectors, and there's much work to be done. So the social compact sets out clear priority objectives for each sector, and also outlines specific commitments made by each social partner towards the attainment of these objectives. While the objectives differ from sector to sector, radical economic transformation and the development of rural and townships economy cuts across all sectors. We were inspired by the frank but constructive inputs from all the social partners. We accept businesses' assertion through Mr. Nigel Ward, who is the president of the Durban Chamber of Business, and he's also the deputy president of Toyota South Africa, that as part of building a compact, we have to ensure that policies and practices deliver on expectations and agreements, because when this fails, these expectations and relationships suffer. The call from Labour, delivered by the Provincial Secretary of COSATU, Mr. Edwin Mkhize, was clear that we need to increase pace in ensuring inclusive growth, investment promotion, holistic support for the township and rural economy, increased workplace equality, and upgrading of skills in education. And I may depart from my speech, Honorable Duma, to say that in the first meetings after the input, Kabazela said, at MEC, you're talking about recovery of the economy, which is fine, but recovery to what? Recovery to a pre-existing, distorted, apartheid legacy economy. And the social partners had to respond to that, and I think the plan does seek to respond to that. We were also encouraged by civil society, represented by Mr. Stembiso Mashdala, who pledged commitment to the compact by reminding us that all of us as social partners have a symbiotic coexistence and that we need each other now more than ever. Our message as government was clear. We understand that we must ensure that we build an ethical, capable state, and part of this effort requires us to intensify our fight against fraud and corruption, and also to ensure an efficient public service. When we closed that summit where we had signed the social compact, we said the two takeaways were trust and accountability. Trying to build trust between these partners, but that cannot stand alone. It has to be built on accountability which will sustain that trust. So as part of the social compact, this is what we have committed to do. We are saying, hold us accountable and to this and all our commitments, and in this regard, we'll be finalizing our monitoring and evaluation framework within the next few weeks. This framework will not only ensure accountability, but also ensure that we are able to adapt our action plan to the fluidity of the economic situation. To organize labor, we want to say we understand that there's a crisis of unemployment which is linked to the COVID-19, but also pre-existing. And a time of crisis like this one requires sacrifices from all of us. We make this call while remaining sensitive to the reality that the poor and the working class continue to bear the brunt of this crisis. I am certain that organized labor will be pleased with some of the proposed changes to our industrialization policy, as they include proposed amendments to legislation to allow for more representation of worker interests in company decision-making structures and boards. And I'm sure that you have followed the latest announcement by the Minister of DTIC that is introducing legislation to be able to achieve this. And no other than Coca-Cola has already agreed to have 2 worker representatives on their boards. And I think Pepsi is following soon. And that is a model which is not rocket science. It's been already established in some of the most advanced economies of the world. And it's saying that workers have a critical role to play in the economy. They cannot be regarded as marginalized, and this is a model that has shown success, and we can develop it according to our own needs. As we continue to concretize our pact, we challenge civil society to deepen the depth and breadth of its representation within the Economic Council. The important work we are undertaking will also require the involvement of our intelligentsia, academia, and organized professional bodies as part of civil society. So we urge business to continue to come on board and partner with us in defeating the narrative that there is an investment strike. We know that we have many patriotic businesses that continue to invest, create jobs, and undertake various social responsibility programs for the benefit of ordinary people of KwaZulu-Natal, especially the poor. Honorable members, our hope has been reignited each day recently with the new investments and developments taking place in the province. The following are just a few of the powerful confidence-building examples we have witnessed in the recent past. Nyanza Light Metals is the construction of the first phase of the Nyanza Light Metals titanium dioxide pigment production plant commenced in March this year. The project will be rolled out in 3 phases, and the total investment value of the project is 4.5 billion rand. This project completely reflects our BEE objectives and is financed inter alia by Afrexim Bank, which you are going to hear much more about in the years ahead. This, of course, is located in the Richards Bay IDZ. Then we have Wilmar Processing, which is the construction of the 1.3 billion crude vegetable oil refining facility at Richards Bay again, commenced in October 2020. Currently, civil engineering works are underway with piling and earthworks nearing completion. And once completed, the facility is set to create 202 permanent jobs. Earlier this week, we met with the investor and they assured us that the workforce will be sourced locally. Then we have Pepkor Logistics Facility, which is a 1.5 billion facility based at the Keystone Business Park in Hammersdale, which launched on the 11th of May, that's a few days ago, by our Premier. Construction of the facility is currently underway and once operational will create 2,200 jobs in just this Pepkor facility and another 1,300 jobs in allied facilities in the same park. Keystone is now being expanded to include a 10 billion rand phase 2 and a 50 billion rollout of an intermodal hub that will increase the port capacity by 30%. And just in layman's language, part of that intermodal hub is that you'll have a truck staging facility which will release the pressure with the port and have a relationship with the port to make the operation more efficient. Another important point to note, departing slightly from my prepared speech, both these two are national distribution centers. In other words, these are facilities that will then supply the country as a whole. And I'm making this point is that we must begin to appreciate the strategic location that we have in KwaZulu-Natal and especially in the Durban-Pietermaritzburg-Joburg corridor. It's that strategic location that is facilitating this investment in the main. Then we have the Defy Warehousing and Distribution Center on Wednesday, that's just the day before yesterday. So we officially opened a 170 million warehousing and distribution center at Danskral in Ladysmith. This facility has the capability of loading and unloading in excess of 200 trucks per day and a storage capacity of 100,000 cubic meters of products. It will create 130 new jobs. We are pleased with the commitment shown by Transnet to both the Durban and Richards Bay ports. And this is a 100 billion rand investment over the medium term into the expansion of the Durban port, which will not only reduce congestion and increase capacity, but will lead to job creation and a massive injection into the economy of the province. Honorable members, in the previous budget speech, sorry, I just want to have access to the timer. But the chairperson is my friend. But there are rules. In the previous budget speech, the department made some commitments to the citizens of this province. It is therefore appropriate that we begin this budget speech by providing a clear account of how we have performed against those commitments. As a government elected democratically by our people to represent their interests, our word must always remain our bond. We must be able to communicate our achievements, concede where we have fallen short, and clearly outline the remedial actions to mitigate such challenges. As part of our effort to build a capable state, the decision to rationalize provincial public entities was taken in order to streamline service delivery, eliminate duplications, create efficiencies, and ensure that the mandate of government is executed in the most cost-effective manner. The province is at an advanced stage of implementing these resolutions in respect of rationalization, and the KwaZulu-Natal Edtea was instructed to merge the functions of the Film Commission and the Tourism Authority, Ezemvelo Wildlife and the Sharks Board, and summarizing the gaming and betting boards and the KwaZulu-Natal Liquor Authority. We can report, honorable members, that the necessary draft legislation has been prepared and is currently being discussed with the Office of the Provincial State Law Advisor in order to have the draft bills certified and translated before they are submitted to the Executive Council for final approval. Before we introduce the bills into the legislature, we expect to do this by the end of the second quarter of this financial year, with an anticipated go-live date of the merged entities of 1st of April 2022. Ethical governance remains a key priority. Several investigations have been finalized and recommendations are being processed. Consequence management is non-negotiable. We will in due course fulfill our obligation to report to the ad hoc committee on investigations established by this Honorable House within the disclosure framework developed by the said committee. Honorable members, the KZN Department of Edtea recognizes the central role of small enterprises as we rebuild and transform our economy. We previously committed to promote SMME and entrepreneurial development through improved access to financial services, shared production facilities, business incubation, the Enterprise Development Fund, and implement a comprehensive cooperative development support program, amongst other interventions. So our support to SMMEs and cooperatives is predicated against the following 5 pillars, and these are important because we're going to have to measure this as we go along. Business conceptualization and planning, business registration and formalization, training, mentorship and incubation, finance, loans, equity and grants, and then very importantly, access to markets. Yesterday I was on the South Coast in my hometown, well, not quite my hometown, in Margate, where I witnessed the graduation of young people who had emerged from the SID incubation program. And it was really inspiring because these were young people, talented people, energy, and they have great hope for the future, and we must be able to help them. The department is pleased to report that 250 million was dispersed to over 953 SMMEs, thereby creating 1,285 jobs through the Enterprise Development Fund. A further 217 jobs were created through the Cooperative Support Program. Other notable achievements over the ensuing year, prior year, include development of a database indicating operational and non-operational small enterprises together with their individual needs, identification of buildings and infrastructure in municipalities for use by the SMMEs. And we have an IDFC property in KwaMashu secured for the shared facility for the production of detergents. The renovation, refurbishment, installation of machinery and equipment is very advanced. In fact, we expect complete commissioning and operationalization of this facility before the end of July this year. So there's no more generalizations, no more, we want to be specific, measurable, and scientific. During the period under review, and I might just say that that picture was a couple of months ago, and the renovations are complete. It's been equipped. It's just the operationalization of it, and I hope that the committee will be able to visit it once it is in fact operational. We did have a setback. Once it was equipped, our 5 desktops and 1 wall top, if I can call it that way, was stolen under gunpoint. So security is an issue that we will need to deal with. But Honorable Zinhle Cele, who's an MPL in that area, has been showing great interest and support for the project. I will then go on to give some statistics of the SMMEs trained, and I'm not going to go through that in order to manage time, but significant numbers of 547 and 420. And these statistics demonstrate our unwavering commitment to support the priority groups such as women and youth. There is work outstanding with regard to the disability sector, and consultations will be intensified to pilot an appropriate model. We then have Operation Sakinzuzu. The challenges confronting the local sugar industry, particularly small-scale farmers, have been widely covered in various media platforms. In 2021, we committed to continue providing support to the small-scale growers under this operation, which is a multi-year project implemented in partnership with Tongaat Hewlett. 139 small-scale growers benefited from the program, ensuring that 691 hectares of cane were planted. And these small growers supply various sugar mills such as Felixton, Darnell, Amatikulu, and Maidstone. Growers were assisted with various inputs and other tools, and 492 seasonal jobs were created as a result of this initiative. Both the above programs will be evaluated this year for impact and sustainability. Operation Vola Fund is fast emerging as the flagship program of the department as far as transformation is concerned. And it's meant to enable KwaZulu-Natal entrepreneurs with innovative and employment-creating business ventures for them to access grant funding from the department. A total of 1,025 applications with a value of 322.3 million has been approved for funding. 178 of these have already received business instruments to the value of 29.7 million. And I might make the point that we don't give money. We look at their needs and procure the equipment. These SMMEs are located throughout the province in various sectors of the economy. It is encouraging to note that approved applications are equitably distributed across all 11 districts of the province, but 4,229 applications were received, and putting in appropriate due diligence checks and balances meant a significant delay in concluding, but we have now broken the back of this challenge, and the rollout will be completed by the end of July this year. Preliminary analysis of funding statistics reveal that approximately 42% of successful applicants are youth-owned business. At the same time, there was an almost equal chance between males and females. Over a third of the funded proposals were in areas such as baking, automotive repairs, clothing and textile, renewable energy, car washes, gardening, catering, cleaning, mobile kitchens, events management, fast food restaurants, shisanyamas, tuck shop, internet cafes, and hairdressing, among others. We intend to do an analysis of the reason for those who were unsuccessful and include same in an educational exercise before we open the next window for VULA applications, and there will be a next window for this particular program. The Radical Agrarian Socio-Economic Transformation Program is a dedicated intervention, which I'm sure you're aware supports small-scale farmers, especially subsistence farmers, through provisions of implements, training, and in particular access to markets. In the previous year, we made commitments to scale up provisions of inputs to this category of farmers. Of course, there is a significant overlap with the work of the Department of Agriculture, and we are currently in discussions with the department as to whether this program is best located there. But we are happy to report that 228 farmers benefited from this program, and they were able to sell their produce to the value of 7.3 million rand. A number of private markets were secured, and this is key, securing the markets for their produce. Were secured, such as Fair Food, to supply Unilever, Sogosan Hotels, FedEx, Boxer Stores, Choppies, Spa, Massmart, and others that are listed there. 285 jobs were facilitated through the Russet program as follows, and they are listed per district, and to manage time, I'm not going to go through it. In eThekwini, we are starting an egg hub at Cottonland Farm, and a market requiring 80,000 eggs a day has been secured. A poultry hub in Cato Ridge has been secured and rehabilitated. The hub is operated by retrenched Rainbow Chicken employees, and we have provided the assistance set out there. So the Russet program has managed to enhance economic productivity in rural areas and is now being extended to all districts. We must give sustained support to this effort. Over time, we will reach both a critical mass and self-sufficiency, but it will not just come automatically. The Black Industrials Program, we are encouraged that a total of 35 KwaZulu-Natal black industrialists were approved to access more than 700 million rand grant funding from DTI, generating about 4,000 job opportunities. They operate in the following sectors, and they are listed there, from pharmaceuticals to steel fabrications down to paper and pulp and chemicals. To systematically support this initiative, we are currently compiling a provincial database of all black industrialists throughout all sectors. This database is designed to indicate products or services offered by them and specify the scale and volume of such produce. It's going to be very useful in our commitment to localize economic opportunities and ensure that our entrepreneurs penetrate the value chain of all industries. So, honorable members, our efforts are no longer ad hoc. Understanding the entire value chain is key. The trade and sector development. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced all countries to look inward, and in our case, this has translated into greater effort in supporting maximum localization of manufacturing production. Fostering an environment that is conducive to attracting and retaining foreign direct investment and export expansion is essential in our efforts to attain and sustain inclusive economic growth and job creation. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is a new frontier for export expansion. The rest of Africa represents tremendous opportunity to grow these exports given the comparatively low logistic costs. Despite the constrained environment that saw restrictions for the greater part of the year, we were able to rise above our constraints to attract substantial investments into the province. Apart from those mentioned earlier, the most notable is that of Meteor's Hesto Harnesses, who invested 900 million in the Kwaduguza municipality and is set to create 3,300 jobs. Among other projects were the following. United Heavy Steel invested 350 million in a foundry in Sitebe, and Frymax Foods has invested 380 million in high-tech processing plant in Verlo. Honorable members, to streamline our investment and export activities, the department, through its entity Trade and Investment KZN, has formulated an integrated trade and investment strategy which has been approved by the Provincial Executive Council. The strategy analyzes key trading patterns and markets and identifies niche areas we should Sorry, just keeping track. Amongst other things, the strategy directs us to focus more on Africa, and this approach has been given a shot in the arm by the recently signed Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. With land mass bigger than China, the US and Europe combined, and complemented by a 1.3 billion youthful population, indeed, Africa holds incredible yet untapped potential. To pursue this objective through Trade and Investment KZN, we have undertaken 5 online trade missions with Botswana, Mozambique, Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana, though globally over 30 online trade missions were coordinated. A cooperation agreement was signed with Botswana Investment and Trade Agency, establishing collaboration in the development of opportunities for investments and market access for our exporters. We've had numerous engagements with Afrexim Bank on collaboration programs, some of which relate to project funding and assistance with KZN companies wishing to export into the continent. It's quite possible that the Afrexim Bank might be holding its trade fair in our province this year. We had already originally secured it for 2023, and they were supposed to have it elsewhere this year, but obviously because of COVID they ran into challenges, and they've approached us to host it in December. There's a few logistical issues to sort out, but that will be a powerful message of confidence if that takes place. Of course, the pandemic had an effect on our exports, the borders being closed and the curbing of physical exhibitions and trade missions. Hey, Chair, you'll have to give me extra time for that. It's 30 seconds so far, Chair. Many companies found themselves in survival mode and were not prepared for this global shock. Despite these challenges, Trade and Investment was able to facilitate product market access for 26 companies, resulting in more than 37 million in sales generated, and a keen focus was applied on online trade and capacity building events, which resulted in 76 companies accessing online trade platforms and more than 90 companies being trained to become export ready. TIC has also partnered with the Department of Small Business to roll out a COVID relief fund for the creative industry in the amount of 1.9 million, which saw disbursements during the year to 80 KwaZulu-Natal enterprises. Honorable members, as part of our efforts in supporting SMMEs within the area of film production, we are happy to report that 10 SMMEs, all women and youth-owned companies, have been incubated and supported during the past year and went into production by the end of March 2021. Special economic zones. Our citizens will be pleased to learn that the Dube Trade Port has the status of being one of the best performing special economic zones in the country. This is another feather in our cap and should propel us to achieve more. To date, DTP has 43 operational investors who have plowed more than 2 billion rand investments, thus creating 3,794 jobs. Whilst the impact of COVID-19 has had the devastating effect it has, DTP has so far secured investments worth approximately 79 million, with further investment projects worth approximately 524 million targeted for final approval before the end of the financial year. This will push the total investments attracted to DTP during 2021 in that COVID period to over 600 million rand. DTP also expects to meet its target of 841 new jobs in this financial year. Honourable members, after a slow start, the Richards Bay IDZ is excited to announce the construction has started, and we've already reported on Wilma, so I'm not going to repeat this, on the titanium dioxide plant. But the expansion possibilities going up to 4.5 billion rand is quite exciting. Our Richards Bay IDZ is also keenly awaiting the announcement of the preferred bidder of the Risk Mitigation Independent Power Producers Program, as indicated by the President in his 2021 State of the Nation address. Business retention and expansion programs. So obviously, while we have not had much growth as we wanted, we've concentrated on retaining current businesses, and that becomes a paramount exercise, because this often leads to domestic direct investment. Allow us to share one good story of our drive to retain and expand businesses. In 2019, we received devastating news that one of the key foundry companies, Metso, located at its Edtea industrial estate, was planning to disinvest, thus threatening the jobs of over 200 people. TIKZN worked round the clock to avoid the situation, managed to immediately secure a replacement company, namely United Steel, which invested 350 million and created 225 jobs. Through trade and investment, we supported 104 distressed companies to access COVID-19 business relief support and various other relief. And through our market access programs, we witnessed some of the distressed companies reporting a turnaround in their operations and thus retaining jobs. There were 52 companies which retained 2,765 jobs. One of the growing economic sectors, even during the height of COVID-19, because of the nature of their business being virtual, is the global business service sector. And again, the Portfolio Committee must become familiar with this sector. The country has been named the top destination in the world for global business service sector. Yes, we are still far behind the giants in quantity, but at the moment we've been declared the top destination. And already almost 15,000 people are employed, a lot of them in that Tegweni area around Mount Edgecombe, near Mshlanga, with those big buildings that are occupied. And the exciting thing here is that there's a potential for another 55,000 jobs within the next 3 to 4 years if we are prepared to hold their hands and work towards it. And I want to say that we are aware of organized labor's concern about some of the issues in that particular industry, but we have facilitated communication and we are convinced that we'll be able to resolve that problem. As part of our drive to retain investments, again through trade and investment, we have partnered with the KwaZulu-Natal Growth Coalition to facilitate 8 aside engagements in municipalities. And this is important because it's almost like a parallel of the Economic Council being cascaded down to the local level. And I know the cocktail debate took place earlier on today, and we are convinced that we're going to have a powerful partnership to be able to achieve this partnership. And this HSI is with organized business and local level. Colleagues, I must stress the economy is down there at local level, and the role of local government is going to be quite critical in this process. We have also assisted a number of companies who have been engulfed by industrial conflicts and disrupted smooth functioning of their businesses, and our efforts have been listed there. And again, in the interest of managing time, I'm not going to go through the detail. Honourable members, the clothing and textile sector is a new growth sector for us. And we want to establish this fully fledged clothing and textile special economic zone. And I'm pleased to report that we've achieved major milestones towards realizing this goal and already attracted investment worth 780 million rand for this SEZ. Of course, this is subject to the DTIC approving it and legislating it, but we've already agreed that Dubai Trade Port will be its operator, and it will have the approach of a textile belt so that we can extend its benefit to more than just one district. Of course, there are examples of success stories. The Msinga factory, which we all know about, was assisted with government over several years. They now got an order from Fushini, and we now need to help them further to be able to deliver that order in time. The other day in Port Shepstone, there was a factory called Genre, which has received an order from Woolworths. Now they're coming to the party, they're talking to what we call the Clothing and Textile Master Plan, where they've committed to targets for local content. Not too long ago, these orders will be placed in China for it to be imported. In this particular case, because of this order, they're able to increase the number of staff from 43 to 350. The industrial parks revitalization is a critical program. Phase 1 in Edtea has already been done. In fact, it was completed a year ago. And now we are busy with phase 2, which is to the value of 49.9 million rand. And let me pay tribute to the work of MPL Zungu. Makosi Zungu has done a lot of constituency work there and has mobilized the sector to support, because we're all aware of Mandeni and how fractious the stability around Mandeni has been in recent times. And it's critical that that stability is maintained, because the potential of this park then becomes quite fantastic. In fact, there are a number of inquiries. The only issue is sustained stability. Economic infrastructure, and we speak a bit about the work of the Mkuze Airport and the Nkonyeni Margate Airport, the Kwamajomela light industry and mixed-use area in Zululand, which is in an advanced stage. Again, in the interest of time, these are efforts that we are putting into our infrastructure. As part of the implementation of the KwaZulu-Natal Digital Transformation Strategy, which has connectivity and digital skilling as pillars 1 and 2 respectively, and I'm now on page 25, I'm happy to report that significant strides have been made. And in the 2021 financial year, digital centers were established in Kokstad, Pongolo, Umfulozi, Bergville, Dube City, Escort, Umdoni, and Jozini. Our objective is to have a digital center in each local municipality. The existing centers are operational, especially in innovation and capacity development, where we train people in 4R-related skills. We have conducted training in enterprise development, web designing, coding, digital marketing, digital literacy, and design thinking. In the forthcoming year, we intend to add more courses such as data analytics and 3D printing. The broadband program remains a key project for us, and there's serious outstanding work to be done, but we have now a project management unit, and BBI has seconded a resource person to head the PMU office. 11 schools were connected in Mgunjlovu through the SA Connect program, and this sector has been identified as needing much more intensive work, working with the national department, SOEs, and the private sector. We must make connectivity a competitive advantage for KwaZulu-Natal. This is a key strategic task. Business regulation and governance, I'm not going to go through this in any detail. Suffice to say that between the Liquor Authority and other enforcement agencies, there's been a visible presence throughout the province on regulation and enforcement. And I think working together with our late MEC, MEC Begin Tuli, we've had real impact on the ground. And of course, he paid the price for that because he was out there every day enforcing this compliance. On economic planning, I think you'll be pleased to see that cannabis and hemp, MEC Nkoniani, is very strongly on the radar. And the department committed during the previous budget speech that we will ensure that historically disadvantaged entrepreneurs will be supported to penetrate the niche markets of hemp and cannabis. We have to date received 238 applications for hemp.
Sorry, MEC, can we negotiate? It's
Yes.
time for negotiation.
Yeah.
How many minutes do you need?
I think 5 minutes, Chair.
5 minutes.
Yes, you can take it off my response time.
That's fine.
Thank you. You still got to add me 30 seconds for the disturbance. Okay.
I'll make it 6.
We have to date received 238 applications for hemp cultivation permits, and this was delayed, if you recall, because it was stuck at the Department of Agriculture where there's jurisdiction. The Minister has just announced that successful permits will be expected to be issued from October 2021 onwards. We have also received numerous applications for licenses for cannabis for medicinal purposes. Again, here it's a little bit more difficult because this has to go through SAPRA, the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, and it's a highly scientific because it's in the medicinal cannabis sector. So it's highly regulated, and the province has therefore established a project management unit at MKI, which Moses Kotshane Institute, which has experts that support entrepreneurs with advisory services. MKI has also appointed a company. Again, the committee should find time to go and visit to see what's the progress. 3 cannabis pilot sites in the province in Ndwedwe, Mbumbulu, and Mpangeni. Honorable members, tourism is obviously a major pillar of our economy in KwaZulu-Natal and has been the most badly affected. In fact, tourism was devastated because of COVID. But I think we are seriously in the process of rebuilding, and we've been very encouraged with our results during December and the Easter vacation period, where we had average occupancy of 62.3% and 50% respectively, which we think is a good start to our road to recovery. Of course, the report itself gives a lot of detail on the tourism sector, on the MICE strategy, that is the meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, training for emerging businesses, tourist guides, the 20 million rand relief fund, which is in addition to our share of the 200 million which we got from national, and of course there's now the 1.2 billion equity fund, which is subject to some litigation, but we expect that benefit to come through. And then the report also lists some local initiatives which time will not allow me to go through. Environmental management is a key strategic area for us. There's a lot of potential, not just for job creation, but also in the field of climate change, which we also know is an international issue. We, of course, just relaunched our reconfigured Climate Change Council, and again, we're trying to reflect the same principle of bringing all sectors on board in a united effort behind this very, very important category of work. I'm not going to go through COVID-19 interventions because I think we are familiar with it and the kind of relief measures that we focused. It's set out on pages 31 and 32. I've covered the economic reconstruction plan. The informal economy lets me emphasize that this will be a key sector for us. It was estimated that nationally there were 5 million people in the informal sector, and they were very badly affected by COVID. Again, we want to have our database of informal businesses. Our municipalities must have units that are dealing with the informal sector because politically it is a political priority for us to empower and enhance this sector. If on page 35 we just list our public entities, And I do so because we want to lift the profile of all our entities, because they become key instruments in our economic recovery plan. On page 36, each of these entities have a serious contribution to make to our economic recovery, reconstruction, and transformation. We are determined that both Itala and Ezemvelo Wildlife fulfill their flagship status. Much work needs to be done. A new board for Ezemvelo Wildlife will be in place by July this year. The CEO vacancy will be filled. In the short term, budgetary constraints will remain a serious challenge, but working with our National Department of Environmental Affairs, we will resolve issues of synergy with Smangaliso Wetland Park and the commercialization of identified facilities. Much more effort will be put into developing a stronger partnership with neighboring communities. Tensions continue, aggravated by the poor economic climate and unemployment rate. Itala IDFC's significant property portfolio must be more efficiently managed and an even better economic return generated. This function is strategically placed to add significant value to our developmental mandate. And Itala SOC is well placed to claim state bank status, but this is not automatic. There are both operational and legal obstacles to be overcome. We are very encouraged, however, by the energy and enthusiasm of this entity as they seek to restructure and reposition themselves. We must strike the proper balance between being developmental and being sustainable. There is no bank that can be sustainable without proper risk assessment and mitigation measures. Indeed, managing risk is the crux of a bank's business. So, honorable members, you shouldn't be amongst those who put the bank under pressure to grant loans that it will obviously not get repaid. In conclusion, Honorable Chair, Charlotte Matreke and John Dube teach us that during the darkest of times, upright leaders must offer hope to the downtrodden. I therefore call on members of this House and people to the province as a whole to choose the side of the poor and rally behind our economic recovery and transformation effort. The signing of the Social Compact last month, in which labor, business, government, and civil society made specific commitments towards ensuring the success of the economic recovery, reconstruction, and transformation plan, is a major boost to our efforts to secure a united front championing a new and more just economic order. We will rise above the current challenges through the collective and conscious actions of all citizens, irrespective of race, social status, or even political affiliation. Our deeds must be underpinned by the understanding that the economy will only prosper through hard work against a backdrop of stability, social cohesion, and peace. We must all put our soldiers' shoulders to the wheel in support of local government. We will struggle to attract investment if our towns and cities are still beset with basic service delivery challenges. Water and electricity are key economic issues. But just as we are reaping the rewards of the hard work put in by Charlotte Matreke and John Dube and many others, we are hopeful that our collective effort at this time of crisis will be remembered by generations to come. Honorable members, please allow me to conclude by extending my humble gratitude to both portfolio committees, the members of this House, the staff of Edtea, and our public entities for their consistent cooperation. I thank my family and my organization, the African National Congress, for their unwavering support. Let us all unflinchingly commit to the building of our province as one people, united by a common vision of seeing a prosperous KwaZulu-Natal. Honorable Chair, I present the budget for vote 4, which is the Edtea vote for the year 2021-22, according to the following programs. There are 7 programs set out there, Chair, totaling 3.341 billion rand, and I trust that this budget will receive the favorable consideration of this honorable House. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Let me see. No, you didn't take much of my time. They spoke about cannabis. I saw many colleagues of mine wake up. I don't know what is the reason. Honorable members, we are now inviting the chairperson of Edtea in KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable J.S. Ngumalo, to present the committee report for 10 minutes. Zwete.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable MECs present, Honorable members, heads of departments and other officials, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, protocol is observed. Once again, good afternoon. Honorable Chairperson, allow me to table a report on the committee's deliberation on the 2021-22 budget and annual performance plan of the KZN Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs as submitted and presented to the committee on the 7th of April 2021. The department submitted the final APP and the budget on the 6th of April 2021, a day prior to the portfolio committee meeting. Hence the committee support staff could not analyze and brief the committee on the department's submission. In terms of quality, the department's reports are of good quality. The format of the department's report appears to comply with the standard reporting requirements, since information is presented at both program and at sub-program level. The committee met with the department on the 18th of December 2020 to engage on the 2021-22 draft APP. Later on the same day, the department also presented and engaged stakeholders at Ngwelezane Community Hall. Furthermore, to engage on the final APP and the budget, the committee met with the department on the 7th of April 2020. Lastly, the committee also attended the Finance Portfolio Committee budget hearing on the 22nd of April 2021, where the department and its entities presented their 2021-22 MTEF budgets. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, this report comes at a time when we are still in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has compounded socio-economic challenges by increasing poverty and unemployment while deepening inequality. It has exacerbated existing economic challenges such as credit rating downgrades, economic structural challenges, and sluggish economic growth. Interventions such as the social and economic relief package introduced last year have assisted. However, it is clear that more interventions are needed to enable economic recovery and restore economic growth while restructuring the economy to benefit every citizen of this country. When delivering his 2021 State of the Nation address, His Excellency President Ramaphosa listed acceleration of our economy recovery and implementation of economic reforms to create sustainable jobs and drive inclusive growth as overriding priorities of 2021. Highlighting the importance of reversing the adverse of COVID-19 impact on the economy, the Honorable Premier Sihle Zikalala themed his KZN State of the Province address as, I quote, quickening the tempo on economic recovery, reduction of inequality and creation of jobs. The Premier further highlighted the reigniting of economic recovery and job creation as one of the provincial priorities for 2021-2022. Therefore, the committee approached these budget deliberations informed by these and seeking to understand alignment on the department's financial and non-financial plans with these national and provincial priorities. The department reported that its total budget allocation for 2021-2022 is 3.3 billion, divided among 7 programs and 12 entities. The department also reported that 2.1 billion of the budget is transferred to its 12 entities as they also implement the mandate of the department. The Portfolio Committee on Economic Development and Tourism is only responsible for overseeing expenditure of 2.1 billion, which is the budget for program 1 up to 6. The committee noted that notwithstanding budget cuts, the department's budget is back to its baseline, and therefore the department has adequate financial resources to achieve its goals. The emphasis is on spending these limited resources with efficacy while obtaining value for money and achieving all projected service delivery targets. The committee further encourages the department to strengthen its monitoring and evaluation mechanisms on its entities to ensure alignment with department's mandate and goals, since 65% of the total budget is transferred to them. The department confirmed that its APP and annual operation plans are aligned to national policy, SONA, SOPA, Lekgotla resolutions, and the economic recovery plan, and that its focus for the 2021-22 financial year will be on the following: 1, reconstruction and recovery of the provincial economy through job retention, job creation, investment into infrastructure, SMME support, industrialization and localization. Focus on priority groups, building a capable state, promoting good governance, rationalization of public entities, and promotion of integrated planning and development. The Portfolio Committee welcomed these priorities and interventions to mitigate the effect of COVID-19, such as the Tourism Relief Fund. Noting all the priorities presented by the department, the Portfolio Committee is committed and dedicated in fulfilling its constitutional and legislative mandate through the application of the sector oversight model. By ensuring robust oversight and monitoring the progress and implementation of these priorities, we look forward to further engagement on the provincial reconstruction and recovery plan. Honorable Chairperson, as mentioned above, a draft budget and APP was presented to the committee and stakeholders at Ngwelezane Community Hall on the 18th of December 2020. The community and stakeholders participated immensely and provided valuable inputs for the department to consider when crafting its plans, such as 1, increasing provision on access to commercial property and access to finance for SMMEs in the townships and rural areas. 2, intensifying development of rural and township economy, concentrating on underdeveloped townships as major intervention for local economic growth and job creation. The committee also engaged the department on the following areas of concern arose during the budget hearings. And there is no alignment between the APP and the budget, hence the committee emphasized that department must endeavor to achieve this alignment, which will improve efficacy in implementation of the department's plans and improve budget spending patterns. The acceleration of the interventions such as Operation Vula Fund and Tourism Relief Fund, the department was encouraged to fast-track its processes while not compromising integrity of these processes. The focus should be on timeless intervention to avoid businesses closure and job losses. The department was encouraged to synchronize its plans and interventions with its entities and other departments to ensure sustainability of SMMEs, which are beneficiaries of its various interventions. It is the long-term survival of these businesses which will contribute to economic growth and continuous employment. Honorable Chair, the department must ensure that provincial tourism plans align to different district tourism plans. The department was encouraged to provide optimal level of support required at district tourism level, especially on policy development. It is vital to extensively promote domestic travel to resuscitate the tourism industry, which was adversely affected by COVID-19. The committee undertakes to monitor the department's financial and non-financial performance diligently throughout the financial year under review, with the aim of ensuring that the department fully spend the 2021-22 budget whilst achieving all its service delivery targets as per the APP. Lastly, Chairperson, having considered the Department 2021-22 budget and APP against its mandate and informed by deliberations, the Portfolio Committee voted on the following. Chairperson, we support this budget. Thank you.
Honorable members, we are now calling Honorable S.W. Mshengu, who is allocated 10 minutes, and he is the chairperson of the Environmental Affairs, which is part of vote number 4. Honorable Mshengu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, members of the executive present, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen. The Conservation and Environmental Affairs Portfolio Committee oversight role encompasses conducting oversight over the environmental affairs function of the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, popularly known as Edtea. This mandate extends to environment as KZN Wildlife as the entity responsible for biodiversity conservation in the province. As part of its oversight function, the Portfolio Committee considered and deliberated on the budgets of both Program 7 of the department as well as that of SMVelo, our entity. The view of the Portfolio Committee is that these two budgets must respond to environmental and biodiversity conservation challenges that the province is faced with. In particular, they must take into consideration issues regarding climate change, response, compliance, and enforcement, as well as job creation, especially in the green economy. In preparation for the stakeholder engagement session, both the department and the entity submitted their draft budgets and annual performance plans in December 2020. The report deals with the nature of inputs from the stakeholder engagement session in Section 5. The final versions for consideration by the Portfolio Committee were received on the 12th of April 2021 prior to the committee budget hearing on the 16th of April 2021. No issues were raised by the Portfolio Committee on the quality of information provided. However, Chairperson, reasonable time must be given to both the committee researcher and the budget analyst to analyze information so that committee can be adequately equipped and capacitated. The committee held its budget hearing meeting on the 16th of April 2021, where both the department and the entity SMVelo presented their final 2021-22 budgets and annual performance plans. Prior to this hearing, the committee attended a session on the 9th of March 2021, where the Provincial Treasury made a comprehensive briefing on the 2021-22 MTEF budget for KwaZulu-Natal. The committee also attended the Finance Portfolio Committee hearing on budget of vote for Edtea and its entities, including SMVelo, KZN Wildlife, on the 22nd of April 2021. The role of Treasury and Committee on Finance cannot be overemphasized. As the Portfolio Committee on Environmental Affairs, we appreciate their approach and diverse lenses on issues in which turn enhance our oversight function. The 2021-22 MTEF budget has been formulated against the backdrop of budget cuts. While the baseline for the environmental affairs has maintained a positive outlook when compared to previous financial years, the main allocation of 1.169 billion reflected a decrease of about 38 million rand from the adjusted budget. The budget allocated to environmental quality management showed notable growth. As the committee, we are optimistic that there will be accelerated responses to climate change and proper impact management. We know the establishment of the KwaZulu-Natal Climate Change and Sustainable Development Council and hope that they will consolidate the much-needed climate change response agenda, Honorable MSC. While the committee has noted changes in the waste management program, wherein the department will also be focusing on municipal support, the state of waste management in municipalities requires more drastic interventions including but not limited to intensive capital injection and adequate skills development. The Portfolio Committee will closely monitor the nature of support provided to recycling projects vis-à-vis the impact on West economy, which has the potential to change the lives of ordinary people. The Portfolio Committee will pursue this agenda until there are sustainable changes in the way the department and municipalities deal with waste issues affecting people across the province. The committee also noted that budget for the current payments, especially for service delivery projects rendered by the department under goods and services, has also increased. The entity faces a series of challenges, Honorable Chair, some of which require a substantial financial investment. We note that this is improbable under the stressed public purse. Therefore, the budget of about 1.43 billion rand for 21-22 is reasonable under these circumstances. The entity has the potential to improve their own revenue generation, and this can negate some of the major challenges that the entity faces. This is notwithstanding the need to stabilize governance and management at the institution. In respect of the latter, the entity currently spends about 75% of their budgets on employee compensation. As the Portfolio Committee, we have noted the challenges that came with the dreadful COVID-19 pandemic. We are mindful of the impact this pandemic has had in the entity's ability to generate much-needed revenue. It was against this backdrop that in 2020, the committee supported the allocation of an additional 190 million to the budget of the entity to offset their income losses. Our obligation as the committee is not only to ensure that the entity is supported in every possible way, to also instill a sense of accountability. Therefore, how the entity spends its budget is a priority to the Portfolio Committee. And this financial year is not any different. We will exercise rigorous oversight over the entity. The inadequate budgeting against service delivery programs such as conservation services and operations is a major concern to the committee. The insufficient budgeting against buildings, transport equipment, heritage assets and software and other intangible assets is also worrisome. The findings of the committee's forecast intervention study indicated that the entity's infrastructural investment is far below that of the industry. For instance, 10% of the budget set aside for infrastructure development and maintenance, it's a going practice, but it is in contrary to what we know in this instance, Honorable MEC. The Portfolio Committee is resolute that there must be incremental allocations to infrastructure allocations with the aim of improving ecotourism facilities at all Ezemvelo resorts. The committee will continue to engage the department and the entity in order to ensure that the narrative around Ezemvelo facilities is changed. As the Portfolio Committee, we acknowledge that the biodiversity conservation and ecotourism functions cannot be separated, and we will do everything possible within our oversight function to assist the entity. The committee implores the department and Ezemvelo Wildlife to utilize the allocated budgets prudently, efficiently, and effectively to achieve their set targets. The committee will monitor the utilization of budgets using various oversight tools and mechanisms. The committee held its stakeholders and public involvement meeting on the 11th of December 2020, where relevant stakeholders, including interested groups and the public, were invited to attend. The purpose of this meeting was to give the department and Ezemvelo Wildlife the platform to present their draft year 2021-22 annual performance plans and budgets. Communities that live around Ezemvelo reserves constituted the highest attendance. While the purpose was solely to engage the APPs and the budget, attending stakeholders raised issues pertaining to service delivery. Nonetheless, all these issues were noted for follow-up through committee meetings and where necessary through committees' visits. The recent challenges facing Hlahluwe, Imfolozi, and Winen are proof of reserve community challenges that can no longer be ignored. Moving forward, Chairperson, the budget of Ezemvelo should take into consideration community beneficiation projects so that the entity can proactively initiate benefit sharing as means of enhancing relations with adjacent communities. The initial reaction to the budget, Ezemvelo incites the need to allocate more money. A lot needs to be done to bring both financial and operational stability to the entity. The elephant in the room, so to speak, is the 75% spent on the compensation of employees. Unless there are tangible changes in this regard, the entity's ability to sustain itself and its ability to deliver on its mandate will remain a pipe dream. Honorable Chair, sometimes these things does fail us. The initial reaction to the budget of Ezemvelo incites the need to allocate more money. A lot needs to be done to bring both financial and operational stability to the entity. That I have said. Chair, I will quickly go to resolutions. The committee was satisfied that with the APP and the budget reports by the Department of Ezemvelo, and we voted in favor of the budget with the ANC, IFP, and the MF supporting, the DA abstaining, and others being absent. I would like to thank the members of the committee for their commitment and dedication, their participation and contributions, and enrich our oversight function, their passion for environmental issues, leading us through committee engagements with both the department and Ezemvelo. On behalf of the committee, anyway, I tried. Thank you very much.
No, you try. You try.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mshengu. We are now inviting the first speaker in my speakers list. And this honorable member comes from the ANC. She is Honorable N.N. Spidla Sapeta, and she's connecting virtually, and she's allocated 8 minutes. Yes, honorable member. Are you available, honorable member? Angeniboni phela mina.
Connect, thank you. Usiyangibona manje?
I see you, honorable member.
Thank you so much.
Clearly.
Thank you so much, Honorable House Chairperson, members of the Honorable House, members of the Executive Council, and all the guests in the House. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC wishes to express its unwavering support for the APP and budget of the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs. The focus of my debate is on Program 7, Honorable Chairperson. As I rise here, Honorable Chairperson, I wish to start by conveying my deepest sympathies to all the families that lost their loved ones due to COVID-related illnesses. My heart goes to all the nation's children that have been orphaned by this pandemic. I want to say to them, we are a resilient nation. We have won many battles before, and this one shall and will be defeated as well. I have no doubts in my mind that we will come out of this stronger, united, more energized to pursue Agenda 2030. Honorable Chairperson, we commend the efforts of the Department of Economic Development in mitigating the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic in our communities, especially in the year 2020. We saw many officials, MECs, going in and out of communities, ensuring that they preserve their livelihoods. The United Nations has declared the period between 2021 and 2030 as the decade on ecosystem restoration. This program aims to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of ecosystems on every continent and in every ocean. This program, if implemented and embraced by all, can help to end poverty, combat climate change, and prevent mass extinction. In my debate last year, Honorable Chairperson, I reminded this House about the report findings of the UN Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, where they were reporting that 1 million plant and animal species are facing extinction, some within decades. We have a responsibility, therefore, Honorable Chairperson, as this House and the people of our beautiful province to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of our ecosystems. The United Nations Commission on Environment cannot do this work alone. We all need to play our part to save our planet. Honorable Chairperson, climate change and disasters are closely linked. The impact of climate change is now a regular experience in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and more extreme weather events are likely to increase the number of disasters. These events, Honorable Chairperson, unfortunately often result in fatalities, injuries, loss of valuable assets, destruction of public infrastructure, as well as devastation of environment. Kungakuhle sihlalo nendlu yakho uma singaba namalunga esishayamthetho that will be ambassadors of this program, working with local government and other relevant bodies. At this point, allow me to share a quote by one of my favorite actors, Mr. Don Chidley, who is a UN Environment and Goodwill Ambassador. He said, and I quote, "I hope to use my celebrity to motivate people and contribute to moving our global society back from the brink. I am surprised environment is not at the top of the world's agenda. What is more important than good and clean air?" he asked, close quote. Honorable members, I call upon each and every one of us here to use our influence in society and our PCOs to motivate the people of KwaZulu-Natal to join hands in the campaign to protect our ecosystems. KwaZulu-Natal government, through the Climate Change Council, Edtea, and other sector departments, have identified a number of practical and best practices to comprehensively respond to disaster risk imposed by climate change, like ensuring that disaster risk reduction becomes a provincial and local priority with a strong institutional mechanism for implementation. Ngokwembiko ke sihlalo kahulumeni asikho isifunda la KwaZulu-Natal esingenayo i-disaster center nabasebenzi abaqeqeshiweyo. Lezi nhlaka zinezinhlelo zazo ezibhekene ngqo nezinhlekele kanye nohlelo lokubhekana nesimo sokuguquka kwesimo sezulu. Kanti nomnyango wakwaCocta udlala indima enkulu njengoba ubeka imali bucala yokubhekana nezimo zenhlekele kulesi sifundazwe. Honorable Chairperson, the state of waste management in the province remains a cause for concern due to general non-compliance with waste management principles. In one of the meetings of the committee, a report was tabled by Edtea on the study they conducted on the state of landfills in our waste management sites in the province. What shocked many of us in their report was the revelation that only 2 municipalities were found to be compliant with relevant legislative frameworks and bodies. Siyabonga kakhulu kubuholi baseMusadlala naseThekwini for their leadership in this area of service delivery. The Edtea report, which we have noted with great concern, also identified about 339 unregistered illegal dump sites across the province. Lokhu akwehlanga kahle kumalunga ekomiti kakhulukazi ngoba most of these illegal sites pose health hazard in the surrounding communities, especially children and elderly persons. Kanti okunye ukuthi uma omasipala sihlalo bengaba nohlelo olucacile bangahlomula kakhulu ekuthuthukisweni kwezomnotho wemfucuza, ukulwa nobubha, ukungalingani, izifo kanye nokuswelakala kwamathuba emisebenzi. Kwakuwo lo mbiko kuvela ukuthi omasipala bahlangabezana nengqinamba eziningi kulomkhakha, kodwa ngenxa yesikhathi ngizobala ezimbalwa nje kuphela sihlalo. Omasipala bakhala ngenkinga yokuthi abanayo ingqalasinda, abanazo izinsiza zokusebenza ezanele kanye nabasebenzi abaqeqeshiwe kulomkhakha. Siyabonga ke ukungenelela kweCocta ngonyaka ka-2019 lapho babeka imali engangophezulu kwe-100 million kuhlangabezana nomasipala lapho bathengelwa khona izinqola zokuthutha imfucuza. Kodwa umbuzo wona uyasala ukuthi uma sinama illegal sites amangaka nomasipala that are non-compliant, isiwaphi leyo mfucuza futhi ifike yenziweni mayisifika lapho. Honorable Chairperson, uma imali ingekho kwi-province yokulekelela omasipala ukuthi bakhe ingqalasizinda efanelekileyo. Siyaphakamisa sihlalo silikomiti nokhongolose ukuthi singenelele sishaya mthetho ngokusebenzisana nawo lo mnyango, sixhume uzwelonke ukuthi abheke kulama conditional grants anikezwa omasipala ukuthi ayikho yini engahlengahlengiswa to address these challenges of lack of adequate equipment and to manage waste, as well as resources to procure suitable land for waste management. The issue of lack of wall-to-wall waste management services needs to be investigated, Honorable MEC, and should form part of the provincial land plans on waste management if we are to address the challenges in this area. Sengikushilo konke lokhu, Honorable Chairperson, ngicabanga ukuthi sesifikile isikhathi sokugqugquzela sifundise abantu bakithi.
Honorable member, your time is up. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, my lady.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, madam. We are now moving on to the next speaker.
Leli washi lakho lihamba udlula leli lami.
This next member is Honorable O.B. Kunene. Is coming from the IFP and is allocated 5 minutes. Ngalwiswa kangaka ngathi iwasha lama lisebenzi kahle.
Tambe lingekakhali, Chairman.
How?
Sorry, man. Pass, Molo. No, the mistake was in our system. Yes, can you start, Honorable Member? We're very sorry about that. Yes, demand.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable MEC, Honorable MEC Konyeni, Honorable members of this august House, the HOD, and residents of this beautiful province of ours. The IFP is concerned that the current unemployment rate in our province is very high, as the Honorable MEC has covered it so well in his presentations. These figures are worrying, and the IFP is calling for a sustainable economic model to be put in place in order to tackle the challenges we are facing. This economic model must create jobs and grow the economy of our province, which I hope through the input that was made by the Honorable MEC, this dream will be realized. The IFP says the 3.34 billion rand allocated to this department must be used to create economic opportunities for mass job creation. Our province requires strong and decisive leadership who will implement strategies to benefit the poor and the unemployed, no matter how unpopular such strategies may be to some people. I'm of the view that the Honorable MEC's speech of today covered this ground adequately, and we hope to reap the desired fruits when we look back this time next year, God willing. The IFP looks forward to the Honorable MEC coming up with plans to respond to the contraction of the economy of our province. We call upon the department to double its efforts to support small businesses and cooperatives. We know the 14.5 million rand allocated for projects like the Swiss-funded Ilembe LED program, Operation Sakenzuza, as alluded to by the Honorable MEC, the Sezo vegetable processing project in Pietermaritzburg, and 4 informal economic infrastructure projects in 4 other municipalities within our province. Further to this, we commend the department for partnering with 4 TVET colleges to train cooperatives in technical business management and other skills. We hope that a lot of young people of our province could be assisted to obtain the necessary skills to enable them to play a meaningful role in the economy of our province. We urge the Honorable MEC to ensure that more black people, women, and people with disabilities benefit from the Black Industrialist Program regardless of their political affiliation. We call upon the Honorable MEC to ensure that the business inspection program is implemented in all corners of the province. We urge the department to enforce the labor market policy that prioritizes South Africans but does not discriminate against foreign nationals. We call upon the department to work with municipalities to put into place viable local economic development programs in their IDPs in order to grow local economies. We also call on the department to partner with the municipalities to compile a register of young people who are unemployed in each municipality. This register must stipulate skill levels that the youth possesses. It is a matter of serious concern that the department is very slow in completing investigations on matters of corruption and mismanagement of funds. We are pleased to know that the department will work with the ad hoc committee on investigation in order to get this matter sorted out, because we were concerned very much about it. The IFP notes that the department received funds from Zimele Traders Fund to support rural and township spaza shops. We call upon the department to monitor closely an emerging trend in the informal economy where illegal foreign nationals are dominating in many township and rural areas. We are not against foreign nationals, but we strongly feel that the priority should be given to the local people to play a meaningful role in the informal economy. We urge the department to help rural towns to build economies, facilities to boost local initiatives. The IFP wishes to know the view of the Honorable MEC regarding the Richards Bay IDZ board's decision to give special leave to the CEO of Richards Bay IDZ. It concerns us that while the COO is on special leave because he's facing charges of corruption in the asbestos saga in the Free State, the taxpayers of our country pay for the CEO and also pay for the acting CEO. In conclusion, the IFP supports this budget. We call for prudent spending of the funds allocated and strict adherence to the approved APP. The IFP will exercise its oversight role through the Portfolio Committee in order to ensure that the budget and the APP of the department are implemented. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Can we invite another honorable member, which is Honorable V.R. Mlochwa from the NFP, and is allocated 3 minutes. Are you available, Honorable Mlochwa? Now, it seems as if he is not available, but I will apply the rules in case he comes back. Now I'm moving on with my list. An honorable member from the African National Congress, Honorable MC Fraser. She's allocated 7 minutes. Dibur is clapping hands for her.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker and the Deputy, Honorable Premier and the Executive, Honorable members, guests, I greet you all. Chair, we also call for the political parties not to privatize Ndlunkulu. Ngiyabonga. I greet you all. Allow me to take a minute of your time to reflect on what is happening in our country currently. Listening to other debates earlier on, Chair, on the DA members were saying a lot of things. One question came into my mind. Who does the DA represent? Because they don't represent black people. If they represented black people, there would have been a DA delegation to embrace the memorial of His Majesty. As that was not enough, the DA again didn't embrace the late Regent Queen's memorial. The departure of people like Lindiwe Mazibuko, Sizwe Mchunu, Musi Maiman, Stevens Mokhalapa, John Mutley, Bonginkosi Madigizela, and now Phumzile Van Dam is a crystal clear confirmation that DA is not for blacks. I'm not very much surprised by Pumzile's cowardness of not telling it as it is, that the DA is a party of racists who undermines black. That clique she is talking about is the reflection of the others who are pretending not to be racist. They have driven out all blacks who are trying to transform it. They only take blacks as their laboratory experimental apparatus. Zille said it herself. The DA is a party of false qualifications. Natasha Mazon, who has always masqueraded as having a legal qualifications, portraying herself as a legal guru. Meanwhile, she has nothing to show. I won't talk about Madigizela because he's now into his senses. A party that represents the bourgeoisie class, only which use blacks as their voting cows. A party of a councillor who is now out on bail for 10,000 for fraud, accused of stealing 170,000 for food parcels, and nobody is talking about it, since they portray themselves as angels. But after all, Chair, it's clear that our people have seen them as they are. The last week by-elections have come as a confirmation that our people reject both the DA and the EFF. The ANC is the only organization that still enjoys massive endorsement by South Africans. Honorable Chair, allow me to showcase just a few successes of this ANC-led department under the stewardship of Comrade Ravi Pillay, who has a long-standing record of being a freedom fighter. If you want to know more about that, Shona Lower South Coast uzomthola ama-credentials wakhe. Investment attractions. 2 mega projects, Nyanza Lights Plant and Wilma Food Processing Plants, worth a combination of 6 billion, are currently under construction at Richards Bay. This would lead to thousands of jobs being created. Support to SMMEs. Through the Enterprise Development Fund, the department disbursed 250 million, thereby creating 1,285 jobs. The shared facility, the department has completed establishment of a shared facility for the production of detergents. On Operation Vula Fund, the department has approved a total of 1,025 applications with a value of 322 million for funding under Operation Vula. Tourism Relief Fund. The department has made available a total of 20 million in relief funding for SMMEs within the tourism sector. Sengizovala sihlalo ngivumele ngidlulise ilaka lami ngokwenzeka ePalestine lapho isihluko esifuze sohulumeni wobandlululo kubulawa khona abantwana, abantu abadala abangenzile lutho bebulawela umhlaba wabo. Okufana nci nesimo esenziwe kuthina abantu abamnyama ngesikhathi apartheid senziwa iDA nabadlelana nayo. Former ANC President Nelson Mandela rightly called the Palestinian struggle the greatest moral issue of our time, and the organization that has throughout its history affirmed its support for Palestinians' aspiration for an independent state along 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, unquote. The 53rd National Conference of the ANC has a resolution where we noted, I quote, the ANC is unequivocal in its support for the Palestinian people in their struggle for self-determination and unapologetic in its view that the Palestinians are the victims of the oppressed in the conflict with Israel, unquote. The ANC has resolved to downgrade South Africa Embassy in Israel we plead to our leaders to make sure that that resolution is implemented because it's critical. Ngakho ke singukhongolose simanabo abantu base-Palestina ngoba inhlungu yabo inhlungu yethu. Ngiyabonga kakhulu sihlalo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. You were still having 23 seconds. Yeah. No, there's no investment.
Chair, if you can just take, there's a serious noise. I don't know whether it's a part of the precinct, if they can just give us that, because it...
Oh, I'm told it's a tavern. I'm told that it is from the tavern. Honorable members, let's continue with our debate. We are now inviting the speaker from the MF, Honorable Esther Kurrat-Bansi. She is allocated 3 minutes. Honorable member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable MEC, the Minority Front has always held the view that there must be a calculated balancing act for decisions regarding economic development and environmental protection and promotion. The ailing budgets for conservation versus economic development loses sight of the economic opportunities the protection and promotion of the environment offers. What is sorely lacking is the building of climate change adapted infrastructure for land, air, and sea recycling initiatives. Missed opportunities on renewable energy is unforgivable. Edtea needs to engage the Department of Education, of schools, colleges, technikons, and universities on curriculum adaptation. Edtea should offer bursaries for more climate change scientists. The MF reiterates that mitigating climate change risks deserves an equal budget to economic development. With respect to Mzimvelo and the PPP, or commercialization strategy, Honorable MEC, Mzimvelo is collapsing and must be rescued. Honorable members, PPP is being confused with outsourcing and privatization, and this is impeding open debate. It is important to stimulate a more strategic debate in this Honorable House, dependent on the goals and values of our government and those that businesses wish to achieve. To create full-time jobs for sustainable agriculture or biodiversity conservation, all governments are increasingly depending on private sector for implementation of projects. Given the budget cuts due to COVID-19 shows us that the public sector can no longer afford large investments. Hence, private sector involvement is required. For this reason, the NHI has to be cemented, and most of us agree on this in the health sector. But in conservation, some of us have an opposing or skeptical view. Let's not politicize health or the environment. Both are interdependent for our survival. Without these, we have no economics. Without blurring the debate, the MF simply wishes to emphasize that this changes the relationship between government and the marketplace. Public management has to change because output and performance are now key criteria for evaluating the public sector. Hence, the attention to PPPs fits this context. The MF wishes to see both public and private sectors combine the efforts to make Mzimvelo workable. With these recommendations, the Minority Front supports the Program 7 budget of 1.16 billion, a vote for. However, a doubling of this budget is required if we don't want to, choose commercialization, but if we want to explore creative strategic management the smart way, harnessing nature's bounty to contribute to future prosperity. With these words, we support the budget, and well done, MEC, for your outlook on things that we have coming up. We're really looking forward to all this. Thank you.
Honorable member. We are moving to the next speaker from the ATM, Honorable M.E. Pagati, for 3 minutes. Babu Mfundisi. Can we move on with our program and invite the next speaker from the ANC, Honorable T.S. Mchali, for 6 minutes. Hlabangane, are you connected? Hlabangane, are you connected, Honorable T.S. Mchali?
Ngisamthuma sihlalo.
Honorable members, you know the rules. If he has given his speech to you, we'll allow you to come in.
Sisambheka sihlalo.
Okay, mbheke ke mfethu. Honorable members, we're moving on with our program. We are now inviting from the speaker from the ACDP, Honorable S.E. Manqele, for 3 minutes. Seems as if Honorable Manqele is not around. We are now inviting a speaker from the DA, Honorable H.U. Dibur, for 8 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable members, nice to see you all in the House here again. First of all, thank you to the Honourable Member Fraser for giving us so much publicity. She spent half her speech speaking about the DA, and we do appreciate any free publicity. I must say, Honourable Chair, that I was filled with much excitement when I saw that Honourable Duma is sweeping today. We all know that Honourable Duma is the best sweep in the whole legislature. So that's a job definitely you need to keep on up with there, Honourable Duma. And please just remember, Honourable Duma, when you are sweeping, that I was not the architect of apartheid. So please don't blame me for that. I know that you always have a ace. You always have a ace card up your sleeve. So please don't pull that card on us. Honourable Speaker, 27 years after the election in 1994, the ANC has turned this country into the laughing stock of the world. The dream for a better future has been trampled upon, swept out the door, and forgotten by an ANC that has completely lost its moral compass. The dreams of citizens for drinkable water, the very basics, electricity, or even a job has been squashed by decades of a governing party that is simply not fit for purpose. The triple-headed snake of greed, corruption, and gluttony has crippled our economy, and it will take another 100 years to fix it. Soon this current dispensation will be shown the door. It will be voted out, and it will be prayed out like apartheid was prayed out. Tourism remains the biggest potential job creator across KZN, yet provincial government and Edtea in particular completely snubbed the private sector during the height of COVID-19. When tourism businesses were crying out for financial help, when tour boat operators in St. Lucia, guest houses and B&B establishments were left without funding. Why? Simply because the owners happen to have a certain skin color. Then there are the tour bus operators who are equally placated by empty promises and inaction as their businesses went bankrupt. Gone are the days when the ANC pursued an agenda of government business based on values and principles of the constitution of this country. COVID relief grants, provincial funding, and bailouts are reserved for the politically connected. Since 1994, the ANC has persisted in driving a race-based economic model. It is aimed solely at enriching the few and turning its back on those who do not fit its economic or political profile. Interestingly, it would seem that grants, financial aid and relief funds have marginalized just as many small black-owned businesses. It is abundantly clear that one must be politically in step, and I'll repeat that, politically in step, with some in the ANC before getting a hand up. Then we have cadres tearing each other apart over whether the Zuma policies of radical economic transformation, RASET, and all those other funny policies should be supported or not, when not appearing in the High Court. Provinces' cabinets should chat with its national counterparts and decide whether economic stability and growth or populist budgets that lead to no growth is wanted. And perhaps it's time that the ANC reads the DA's economic justice policy. I'm sure you will find some very interesting bedtime reading there that might just make a change in KwaZulu-Natal's economy. It is the ABC of economic development that will make the province great. The much vaunted Back to Basics program, aimed at fixing the most simple of basic municipal infrastructure, would have been a good start. Once again, it's the ANC and even the IFP that broke that. Put simply, KZN needs to start cutting out the frills and investing in core building blocks of economic development. It is pleasing to note that the 20 or more music festivals, music explosions, jazz festivals, and spin parties will receive no funding in this financial year. More is the pity that government ever used tax money to fund what were essentially epic drinking binges for the wealthy and well-connected, while their rural constituents that everybody keeps on talking about were walking to the local river for a bucket of polluted drinking water. And that is the truth. Go to the rural constituencies and see how the people are living. You've been there. Government's core mandate is to provide the environment in which our quite resilient private sector can thrive. This means larger capital budgets to provide key infrastructure in all areas, not just Dube Trade Port, the N3 corridor, and the RDRBZ. It means government spending on providing water, roads, and electricity to rural regions, which would spark economic growth in communities where there simply are no local jobs. Must happen. On the environmental side, Honourable Chairperson, Environmental Affairs seems largely hamstrung to conduct any meaningful enforcement on the worst polluters in the province. Our municipalities are those polluters. Tourism continues to go by the wayside as sewage pours onto the beaches of Ugu. The Mgeni pumps trash into the oceans adjacent to the Golden Mile, and oil and contaminants destroy our harbour. Ladysmith stinks because their sewage pipes continue to burst, and that is an ANC district municipality. And Richards Bay waterfront, which is a prime tourism hotspot, has floaters, and we all know what floaters are. All thanks to the mismanagement of ANC municipalities. Opportunities to advance tourism in iconic regions are unfortunately also not adequately addressed, with budget for the Howicks Falls precinct not being made available in this financial year, according to the budget documents, Honourable MEC. Meanwhile, big industry in the petrochemical sector continues to choke the people of Msunduzi with their noxious fumes, and fires on illegal dump sites in Ilembe pollute some of the North Coast's prime tourism hotspots. Finally, economic development is utterly dependent on political stability, and a government that is willing to not only say the right things, but implement policies that entice the private sector to invest in this province. Here, KZN can take a leaf out of the books of the DA-governed Midvaal municipality, or even Cape Town, where a cutting down of red tape, advanced infrastructure, and simply creating safe, working, and capable municipalities draw significant investment. Perhaps if you find the Cape Town scenario hard to swallow, then look northwards to Rwanda, a decimated economy that emerged from a genocide and now where it's easier to do business than what it is in South Africa. Or look to Nigeria, where their GDP is twice that of South Africa. Look at the ports in Africa that have far outgrown our ports, such as Durban. KZN's economy and its budget is so characterized with catchphrases, programs, and operations, it's hard to believe the local economy really does benefit. The ANC is still stuck in the rut of its struggle history. It has not moved past its liberation status into a position where it can think out of the box. Perhaps the ANC believes it can indoctrinate the people by throwing a label of Operation Vula or Operation Sukuma Sake on its programs and just hope it sticks. The question is, how do we expect significant direct foreign investment when the ANC drives a message of land expropriation without compensation? How is investor confidence boosted when we as a country have an obsession with the ANC's former struggle allies like China and Cuba? How does the ANC in one breath speak about local manufacturing while continually reaffirming its commitment to China at the expense of our local businesses? The ongoing legal challenges in integrating the various entities has done nothing but put a stick in the spokes of provincial government. This is a matter that has been outstanding for several years with no clear end in sight. Honourable Chair, I believe I'm out of time. I will be back, as the Terminator said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We are inviting this. Oh, Honourable Charlie, are you back? I don't think he has connected yet. Honourable members, we are inviting the speaker from the ANC. This is Honourable B.M. Zuma, and he is allocated 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable MECs present, honorable members and viewers in all platforms. I greet you. As the ANC, we support budget vote 4 as tabled. Chairperson, the achievement of democracy in 1994 provided us with an opportunity to pursue economic growth, development, redistribution, so as to achieve a better life for all. We are on a historic tragedy which seeks to completely transform the economy of our country for the benefit of our people. Economic transformation forms the fundamental basis upon which the national democratic revolution depends. As a result, we must work diligently to ensure that our people experience economic freedom. This can only be achieved through radical economic transformation. Honorable members, here we are referring to a transformation which aims at realizing the Freedom Charter's vision of a society in which the people shall share in the country's wealth. Honorable Chairperson, our debate is taking place under the tough economic environment and with the increasing uncertain and fragile domestic and global growth, which requires us to do more to change our performance and outcomes. We must acknowledge that the bulk of the department's budget is allocated to its public entities. Chairperson, allow me to focus on programs relating to administration, integrated economic development, trade and industry, and business regulations. We appreciate the good work that the department is doing regarding Program 1, which is administration. However, we have noted with a concern that the department is currently sitting at 14% vacancy rate. We are encouraging the department to speed up the filling of critical posts, as this may negatively impact on the efficiency of the department. Notwithstanding the difficult economic climate and the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, the department is able to steer a number of programs and interventions that were aimed at stimulating economic growth. Members, honorable members, we want to align ourselves with Jack Kemp's assertion when he says, and I quote, "Economic growth that does not mean anything. Economic growth does not mean anything if it leaves people out," close quote. We have observed with interest that the department always prioritizes working with the people in their programs. SMMEs and cooperatives were supported by the department in collaboration with Trade and Investment KwaZulu-Natal. They were also able to apply online for various COVID-19 relief funds and schemes. A number of job opportunities were created through the cooperatives support program. The department will prioritize provision or providing technical support to SMEs operating within Operation Vula. And siyakubonga kakhulu lobo bawuzogxeka nje laba abakama ngenye indlela le program enhle kangaka. We commend the department's initiatives aiming at empowering women and young people. This has seen the training of more than 500 young people and women in various skills and enabling them to participate in the mainstream economy. We are also encouraged by the department's support to the small-scale farmers, especially to the cane growers under Sakin Zuzo project. We must say this is one of the department's success stories, which is conducted in collaboration with Tongati Hulet Sugar.
Honorable members, we want to applaud the department for resuscitating the clothing and textile industry in the province. The following clothing and textile special zones were supported in Alfred Duma and Newcastle municipalities. Agro-processing sector was supported through construction of park houses in support of the RASET program. We must commend the department for initiating an online trade platform where emerging traders, designers, and creatives have a platform wherein they can advertise online. This is highly commendable given the migration to the fourth industrial revolution. Ezinye zezinto esithi iindaba ezinhle lezi. On business regulation and governance, campaign and high-profile inspection programs were conducted by the department to address the scourge of illicit and illegal business activity. This was extended to inspections and excessive pricing on essential food products. Honorable members, we will recall that this process was critical or crucial, especially during the peak of COVID-19, where some businesses inflated prices, which was disadvantaging our people. We commend the implementation of the KZM automate system, which addresses the inefficiencies in the application of the business licenses. We were pleased to hear from the MEC that the backlog from the issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable PM Zuma. We are proceeding with our list. We are going to the speaker from the IFP. This is Honorable P. Gavenda. He is allocated 5 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I am grateful to the Inkatha Freedom Party for allowing me this opportunity to participate in this debate today. Greetings to the Honorable MEC Pillay, Honorable MEC Mkonyeni, all honorable members in the House today, officials from the departments, and members of the public that are joining us on virtual platforms. Honorable Chairperson, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced many countries across the world to revisit and readjust how they do things. People across the world have lost jobs, and many are facing job insecurity and a very bleak future. As a province, KwaZulu-Natal has not been spared, and we are forced to change the way we did things in the past and adapt to the new normal that will remain with us for a long time to come. Such adjustments have affected our economy on many fronts. Workers in all sectors, including the hospitality industry, the entertainment industry, sportsmen and women, as well as administrators in these sectors, have been greatly affected. Even home industries have been negatively affected since the buying power of their communities has diminished. This situation requires creative thinking on the part of the Department of Economic Development and Tourism to turn things around. This department has a responsibility of creating an environment wherein sustainable jobs can be created. We should not fool ourselves with short-term EPWP jobs that last for just a few months, and those people are then left jobless. Whilst government relief packages will assist the SMME sector, some consideration must be given to the informal traders and work seekers who remain on the fringes of our economy. The township's economy needs to receive greater assistance from government. Honorable Chairperson, tourism has always contributed hugely to the GDP of KZN. And under these circumstances, IFP would like to see greater emphasis being placed on domestic tourism. Every district in KZN has tourist attractions that needs to be promoted across the country, since we cannot predict when international tourists will be gracing our shores again like they used to. every district needs to embark on aggressive marketing strategies that will showcase their hidden tourist attractions. Whilst large hotel groups are able to embark on extensive brand advertising, government at local and provincial levels need to assist the small establishments in the tourist industries. Low-cost establishments such as B&Bs and their service providers need to be assisted with their marketing strategies as well as their business management plans. The IFP welcomes the allocation of funding to repair roads in the game reserves. In order to promote domestic tourism, we want to urge that game reserves reduce their tariffs for all South African citizens throughout the year. In this regard, can the Honorable MEC tell us if the department can provide subsidies to game reserves which can be passed on to domestic tourists by way of reduced rates? With regard to growing our economy, we need to provide incentives by way of reduced tariffs and other administrative fees. Red tape in the processing of EIAs, property acquisition and licensing for businesses needs to be reduced, and there should be a mechanism that will allow a seamless process between the different levels of government, and the MEC articulated this very well on page 27 of his presentation earlier. The IFP welcomes the oil plant initiative in the Richards Bay IDZ, which is scheduled to be completed on the fourth quarter of 2022. We are pleased to hear that the clothing and leather industries are being prioritized, as these sectors have great potential to create sustainable jobs and boost the economy of our province. As IFP, we have always championed the establishment of industries in small towns and rural areas, and therefore welcome the boost that towns such as Ladysmith and Moirova and Hammersdale will receive. It is encouraging to note the developments in the poultry industry at Cato Ridge, where local people have stepped into the space left after Rainbow Chicken's closed shop. These local people need support from government by way of training and financial management and administrative know-how. We truly welcome the initiatives by the department in developing these small towns and giving the small towns a boost in the economy, because if we can move people away from the city centers and provide them with job opportunities in their own towns, then we will be doing what is right in terms of keeping people within their communities, rather than having them moved into the city centers and creating greater social problems there in terms of housing, social problems such as prostitution and GBV. So therefore we welcome this budget and we support it fully. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much. We are moving on with our program. We are going to the Speaker of the EFF. Honorable L.G. Sija is allocated 9 minutes. Are you available, Honorable Sija, or any representative from your party to read your speech? It seems as if you are not available. We are moving on with our own program. We are going to the Speaker of the ANC. Honorable N. Tombela is allocated 7 minutes.
Honorable Chairperson, MEC Pillay, members of the House present, Abbas Bugele, Emakaya. Let me join other honorable members of the House on the vote for budget debate. Chairperson, we are 159 days before the next local government elections to be held on the 27th of October 2021. We are 56 days, that's almost 8 weeks before the open registration of 17 to 18 July 2021. The first and last before local elections, this registration. I'm reflecting on this, Chair, because the forthcoming local elections will be the 6th municipal elections since the advent of democracy. That should tell us, as different political parties, that our democracy is maturing, meaning that even our voters know what they want and what they're expecting. We dare not fail them. This is the context with which we must engage in this budget debate, knowing very well that the expectations of our people can no longer be taken for granted. One of the core functions of the department is to provide effective and efficient environmental management and conservation services. The recent experiences in engine refinery explosion tell the story of how much work still there for the department to proactively deal with environmental disasters in ensuring compliance by big conglomerates. In almost all instances of these incidents, the department is found wanting and responding when the incidents have happened. Measures of monitoring of the department are consistently found wanting. Even in Asmark in Cattle Ridge plant, the same could be said. The question becomes, have we learned from these previous incidents and put clear measures to monitor and curb such before it happens again? Let us ensure that environmental affairs and SMVelo matters are not treated as a stepchild of the department, MEC. Key to ensuring this is that the appointment of the CEO of SMVelo and a new board to oversee its fiduciary duties of this entity is pursued and yenzakalile ngesikhathi so that as we move forward, we can ensure stability within that entity. Chairperson, we welcome the new phase of the invasive alien plant species program, which commenced with the recruitment of over 8,000 beneficiaries across the province. Presently, a total of plus or minus 8,223 to 8,000 plus work opportunities were created through this program, with the demographic breakdown catering for 2% of disability. The triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality continuously remain an albatross on our neck. As such, any program we develop must at least assist on any of the above to address. Chairperson, SMVelo and Wildlife is mandated to manage biodiversity conservation within KZN. This encompasses the development and promotion of ecotourism facilities within protected areas, as well as establishing good relationship with various communities residing adjacent to these protected areas. The national lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic had a negative impact on the entity, and its establishment for tourists as the whole country was on lockdown. Honorable MSc, SMVelo and Wildlife have a huge potential, which has not been thoroughly explored to its maximum potential. There are no clear programs of partnership with KZN tourism to support and promote our game reserves. Private game reserves are more capable and efficient in marketing themselves and their products more than our own entities. How many, even amongst us here as members of this House, have been to Hluhluwe Game Reserve, Emakosini, Etendele, Giants Castle, etc.? It's because sikubuka lokhu as if we must go to Cape Town. We must go to Johannesburg, forgetting the richness and the beauty of our own province. Bringing on board local communities as part of ownership will help enhance even the commercialization plans, taking on board equity stakes by local communities. This will help to prevent vandalism, destruction of property, and ensure collective empowerment rather than individuals. The old infrastructure needs a serious revamp for our game reserves to match in par, if not the private game reserves. This is an area we have consistently observed as a portfolio committee, that we might have the richness and the diversity of our game reserves, but their infrastructure leave much to be desired, which can entice anyone coming in as a tourist. We must understand that running and managing a game reserves can't be as business as usual if we are to entice not only local tourists, but also international ones. This is how we should take and manage our game reserves. We have the big five in this province. We have one of the biggest game reserves. We have the potential. Let us unleash it. As the ANC, we support this budget, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We are moving on with our program. We are inviting the Speaker from the DA, Honorable H.U. De Boer, and is allocated 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I have not embarked upon the second half of my speech to speak about the quite glaring and obvious problems which face Izambelo KZN wildlife. I think we have fully ventilated that issue at committee through the press and with the MEC and the Honorable Chairperson of that committee. And I must commend the Honorable Chairperson of that committee in public and the Honorable MEC for, I think, having a very good understanding of what the issues are there. I think we just have to, in a way, take the recommendations and implement them. And I think that has been the problem from the outset with Izambelo, is the implementation of the very good ideas that come from the committee, a multi-party committee. And on the issue of multi-party, Chair, Honorable Chair, we have been in the privileged position as the Edtea Portfolio Committee to engage on various oversights across this beautiful province of KwaZulu-Natal. And in these oversights, we have seen the degradation, the dilapidation, and the general non-growth of the economy, particularly within the rural areas of KZN. And as much as we can come here and we can fight politically, I think we all share the common goal and vision. The vision that we want people, particularly in rural communities, to prosper. I think that we are united in our common goal there. And whereas I know that Honorable Duma will come in a few minutes' time and he will politically thrash me, we know this. I think that we mustn't lose sight of the fact that there is so much that needs to be done within the rural economy. We lose sight of the fact that we are disadvantaging our school children, the next generation, because we simply don't have enough teachers. We disadvantage the future economy because those same children have to go and use the bush as a toilet. And Honorable Chair, this is not politics. This is what we have seen in our oversights. So when I speak about 27 years of democracy and billions and trillions of rands upon rands that has been spent in every single cluster within this economy, I do so because it is our job, our legislated job as politicians, to provide oversight over the very departments which in some cases have failed. They have failed the citizens of this country and they have failed our children. And I think that we must be very, very honest in assessing what has happened and what has not happened, and how the economy might grow and how it will not grow. And I think that if we are honest in our assessment, we will realize that at the end of the day, if we continue with budgets like those that are presented in this financial year, particularly for Izambelo KZN wildlife, if we continue with the same economic outlook, if we continue with the same populist politics that underpins the very budgets that are presented here, and if we continue to exclude certain nations, certain people, and certain economies from integrating with our economy, simply because they share different political standpoints, then we will never prosper as a country. We are a global economy. We are an economy that is intrinsically linked with the rest of the world. And we should be in step with what the rest of the world is doing. Unfortunately, what we are doing at the moment is that we isolate ourselves. And when I say we isolate ourselves, we are nowhere near the fourth industrial revolution. And we must be honest about these issues. We cannot come here and present populist debates that at the end of the day will severely marginalize the economy in the next 10 to 15 years. It simply won't work. And that is what scares me, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
We are moving to the next speaker. This is Honorable Smoothly, allocated 5 minutes, and he comes from Inkatha Freedom Party.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable MEC, Honorable members that are present here today. Firstly, the IFP would like to condemn the acts of vandalism that took place at the Shushluwi and Mfolozi Game Park, where a group of people allegedly destroyed and set alight a section of the fence and a gate. Destroying and burning down infrastructure such as the fence also put surrounding communities in danger of attacks from wild animals. These acts of vandalism should not be tolerated and the perpetrators should be severely dealt with. climate change, the IFP notes that the department will continue to pursue focused interventions aimed at halting environmental degradation, addressing the risk of climate change. The threat that climate change poses must be given greater attention, while the protection and preservation of our environment and natural resources must become a priority and dealt with effectively. Climate change, as already indicated, is a threat to the stability of our country, and if left unattended, it can cause serious damage not only to the environment, but to the entire ecosystem and our ability to meet the Millennium Development Goals. There is a great need to demystify the whole climate change debate and ensure that all of us have a full understanding of the human activities that contribute to climate change. The Climate Change Summit to be held towards the end of 2021-22 must not merely be a talk shop, but it must come up with tangible and implementable solutions to address climate change. ISMWEL, KZN and Wildlife, we are concerned that this entity is experiencing numerous challenges due to COVID-19 pandemic. It will not be able to meet its revenue targets in order to supplement funding towards operational requirements. The department needs to invest money in maintaining the infrastructure and refurbishing infrastructure which are in a state of disrepair. In this way, money can be saved in the long term, as the infrastructure would not have to be completely replaced. It would also add to the aesthetic appeal of lodges and other tourist accommodations, attracting more tourists and thereby increasing the revenue brought by both local and international tourists in our province. Holiday accommodation that are failing to be viable must be commercialized. In this way, the department can benefit from rental amounts instead of incurring costs for what would eventually be white elephants. Air pollution, waste management, more and more people are concerned about environmental hazards and the resultant adverse health effects on humans and the environment. Pollution from industries negatively impacts the health of employees and neighboring communities, and the potential for adverse health outcomes is heightened when the industries are located in rural areas where the bulk of the population is vulnerable because of limited information about their rights and limited capacity to defend themselves or influence policy decisions. Rural communities are often overlooked by businesses and sometimes even the government. It is unacceptable that communities residing adjacent to industrial developments continue to suffer from the negative effects of inhaling polluted air whilst companies are making profit. All companies which do not comply with our emission standards must be dealt with without fear or favor. We commend companies that are already investing in appropriate technology to reduce emission, but there is not enough. Most of them are not doing it at all. The deficient environmental health awareness coupled with lack of sustainable environmental health program is a major challenge in most areas. Ocean pollution is another problem that needs to be tackled. We are all at risk, but the people most seriously affected are people in coastal fishing communities. Our cleanup campaigns aimed at educating communities about the benefits of a clean environment must be intensified. The IFP wants to see those violating environmental laws, including companies, be held accountable by giving them hefty penalties. The other issue that needs more serious attention is illegal dumping. Even the municipalities must play their role. Municipalities need the public to help combat illegal dumping by reporting perpetrators. These criminal activities by individuals or organized groups negatively impact the lives of particularly the elderly and children, as they often come into contact with dangerous and contaminated medical waste. Thank you, Chair.
While you are breaking Mfundisi, the time went up. Honorable members, we are coming to the last speaker in this debate, which is Honorable S.A. Duma from the ANC. We also received information that he has received the speech from T.S. Mchali.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson, for presiding over this progressive platform of Honorable Pillay budget policy debate. It was so productive. It deals in a frank and open manner. I think he was categorical, not even to entice us on something that is not going to happen. I think we are glad. I'm just going to open on the quote that was written by Amilcar Cabral in 1965. He said, always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's head. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future for their children. I close court, but I think I'm emphatic, Honorable Pillay, on the issue. They are fighting to win material benefits. I think it's what we've been fighting for all these years. Why do we cite this or invoke Cabral's spirit? It is because counter forces who masquerade alternative voice or who masquerade themselves as alternative voice to the society by echoing slogans that are enticing and can lure vulnerable society like ours. I think you are aware or clinical aware, Honorable MEC, that we are no longer using the normal frame. We live in an abnormal experience. So when we push our argument, we are saying that besiege, which means that you must just come and act right now because we don't have time. The material condition does not even allow us that we can still have another days. I think you are aware, I've already cited, which is why you'll hear the honorable Dipurs of this world, they are so worried. They are worried because at some point in time, apartheid was declared a crime against humanity. So whoever doesn't want to associate with apartheid was supposed to be clinical, must pronounce themselves that we hate this thing. It was an evil system. DA didn't say that. Currently, DA is saying that African people are experiment because they understand that they are having that supremacy as white and they are protected. I thought he was going to come and talk about that, even if it means that we want to school him and say that he becomes an exception. He will not be able to become that. He will become the remnant of apartheid. Not unless he can say that I'm coming to declare with everything that was stolen by my forefathers. Then somewhere, somehow we could just say, okay, no, he's trying. Honorable Chairperson, I think we were impressed by yourself, Honorable MEC, on your dialectical understanding of raising the issue of class, the issue of race, the issue of gender, which give us an assurance that when this department implements its program, it will be mindful of the realization that South Africa is the product of a systematic oppression which deprived indigenous people of this country. It is only fair that when you do trade, you must be clinical. I'm just giving you a direct antagonistic space, Honorable MEC, unfortunately. I just want a direct response from you. You have already tabulated that we must say that we appropriate the sum 3.341675 billion. Can you just come and frank with us and say that I'm just going to ensure in this population of 11 million, the majority being Africans, black in particular, they will be the major beneficiary at the end of the day. Because for me, I'm skeptical as a legislature to say that I'm saying that I just want to come and support it. Will it be possible at this point in time that we'll produce a billionaires that are Africans in nature? Is it possible that you'll come across with the Ngumalo, with the Ngubane, with the Mchunu, with the Mhlongo being a billionaires produced by this government, especially after this appropriation? If we just appropriate 174 billion on Tuesday, will it ensure that, in fact, Honorable Pillay, if you can just take this statement further, will it be possible somewhere in September in our adjustment budget that this department will ensure, after creating the enabling environment? We understand that government is not a creator of employment, it's an enabler, but government must also intervene. At some point in time, our government must no longer create an enabling environment. We have tried for more than 25 years. It means that let us intervene. If the company, an investment company, comes abroad and say that they want to invest billions, you are duty bound to say that these are the policies. We are just going to give you this partner who is African in the in their nature because of understanding of our concept. So this is what I want, and I want to challenge you, Honorable MEC, because of your nature, ideological and philosophical. We like your school of thought because you are defending the poor. If you then defend the poor, then there are the things. In fact, I'm challenging even our honorable members who are comrade in particular. When will be the right time for us? In tertiary, you've got a lot: psychology, industrial psychologists, medicine 101. When are we going to have a course, say, as economic wealth 101? When are we producing a course, how to make money work for you 101? I think now is the right time, because if we are still learning what transpired from the Eurocentric approach, they were clinical, they wouldn't give us the education that can give us freedom. In fact, the type of education, it will be the education that the pools of this world will come and lambast us. They will say we are corrupt, not advancing an argument that for 342 years, they were at the helm of this country, and they did not do anything. It was only the few minorities who were at the helm, and they were getting all the perks. Today, they are telling us that be cautious on the issue of Ezemvelo. Take a wild guess, Honorable MEC. In Ezemvelo, when you've got an auction at Hluhluwe, for instance, the private games, they will come and buy those. Go to Hluhluwe today. If you don't give them money, there is this concept of orphanage. As NGO, they will come as if they are buying, but they are the one who are poaching these animals. Unfortunately, you can't just poach a rhino if you're a peasant like myself. You don't need a bucket to poach a rhino. You need a chopper, you need drones, you need advanced security processes, which are only accessible within their sectors. I think they are aware of those things. So it is not the correct time, Honorable MEC, that you must just understand all those issues as well. I think at this point in time, you've spoken nicely on the issue of ICT sector. I think at this point in time, let us be clinical. What are we referring to? Because we cannot just absorb everything that comes from the Caucasians after so many years. If we are talking about the issue of skills like drones, the development, the issue of decoding, let us ensure that we invest on that, because currently we rely on other people for even coding, something as small as coding. Why do we rely on such track? We've got an unfair advantage, Honorable MEC, that the HOD comes from a national element. So it means that he's been involved and been exposed in understanding that you can always form partnership internally and design our Microsoft, or Microsoft for the lack of a better word. Microsoft is no longer a nice thing because Bill Gates is currently killing our innocent people. So I'm saying, but you can still develop something that can assist our people. I think, because I will also gallop and advance on some, I think it is clear, Honorable Chairperson, MEC, when Honorable Member has just articulated something correct and progressive, it must be said clinical. Honorable Gunene today was progressive enough. He's just advancing something that can assist the department, something that is eligible to work and change people's life. I think we agree with him. He's not usually progressive. He's always countering his argument. But today, I think we agree with him. We just have to state, and he even mentioned that whenever you see the issue of corruption, we agree with him. It's just that with the issue of corruption, corruption must not have eyes. If this corruption taking place in Zululand district, let us poke with this corruption. So I think we agree and holistic that let us deliberate on these things so that we are able to do this. You spoke nicely on the issue of ocean economy. I can just safely say that our people are just bystanders when it comes to that beautiful blue water. They just use the small rod. The other licenses, unfortunately, you must just check, that comes from Ezemvelo, that authorize them just to go, but it is only at that level. They don't own boats. The issue of fishing industry is booming in our country. We are producing and harvesting critical things in that ocean. Before you go to the issue of oil, almost all those things, we just consume them because the facilities are not there. Now is the correct time, even in the issue of manufacturing sector. When are we creating at least our boat? Because the vessel is something else. At some point in time, we must also conversate when is South Africa going to own its port? Because we cannot have Eastern Cape, Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal with so much boundary line, ocean line without a vessel. We must start owning this vessel so that we'll be in charge of this process. I think the entry, Honorable MEC, we agree with you that that corridor is going to be very strategic. In fact, from now onwards, in 10 years' time, we want when you come from Pietermaritzburg to Durban or coming from Durban up to Mooi River, you feel like you are somewhere in Midrand. You cannot just anticipate that, no, I've just gone past Durban. It must not be clinical, like for instance, after Cattle Ridge, you must not visible see because of development. But that development should be driven by the youth of this world, the vulnerable women, the veterans of our country, those who are disabled in their nature. They must just get priority, but just ensure at the center, it must be those who were previously disadvantaged. We are aware that these days, in fact, how we are too apologetic as this organization, we were thinking of being neutral when it comes to PE police. I think we can't just afford that at this point in time. Who are the billionaires in this country? Who have stolen and looted so much? Who are the most committers of white-collar crime? It is the Diburis and their families. They are the ones who are in charge. But they are even very good, even hiding this thing. They don't pay SARS on time because they are in the farming sector. Farming sector, their quantity or the quantum, they're very complicated. Go to those, the owners of this game reserve. They don't declare the profits. They don't even share the skill with us as government. Yet, if when we allocate budget, we also think about them, it is not correct. I think Honorable MEC as well, amongst the legacy project, please consider checking the Bergville-Spionkop Dam and check whether it is not be possible to develop a hotel or a chalet around that area, something like Inanda Dam. Those are issues, those are the new invention that will develop a path and a trajectory just to ensure that our people are also being developed. We are so glad of what has been highlighted on the issue of SEZ on this 43 operational investment, which plowed 2 billion. We are saying that it has been a job well done. I think Honorable MEC got work in a very mysterious way in some instances. This Chinese tavern, we are not discriminating against this Chinese tavern, but it is this tavern, the patron who came from the tavern, who committed or contributed in the arson of this legislature. We lost so much money. When is the time? When is the right time when the liquor board is going to just review these things? Because we are aware, even in our schools, even in our next hospital, something correct should be done. We can't have the liquors that is going to disturb the offices because we are aware. Other brothers who are not even yet developed from AA, they will still be loot on a regular basis just to go to this tavern if this tavern is a distance away from us. So just assist them because we understand. Because people are coming from poverty, some even when they are in the right platform, they can't. Then we support the budget. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for affording us this opportunity.
Honorable members, we are now inviting the MEC to respond to the debate, and he is allocated 14 minutes. 14 minutes because of the 8 and a half, and then that half a minute that he complained about. Yes, honorable member.
Can we subject that to an audit?
Yeah, it can't be audited. No, it can't be audited.
No, thank you, Chair, and let me give appreciation to all those who participate in the debate, largely constructive, sometimes robust, sometimes, in my view, irrational. We'll deal with all of that in the course of this response. But firstly, sincere appreciation. I mean, don't underestimate that this is part of continuing to consolidate our democracy and never take that for granted. And when you look back into generations to come, when they reflect on our work, they'll say that we did something to consolidate our democracy. Let me appreciate the inputs of both our chairpersons, Honorable Ngumalo and Honorable Mshengu, for their inputs, their reports, and I think we agree with almost everything that was contained in the reports. I think largely there's information that is requested, which we need to find a better way to communicate the detail of it. both to the community, to the committees, and to society at large, and that we will undertake to do. I think the Chair, Honorable Ngumalo, raised the issue of relief packages, and the information is there, not all of it. In fact, we are also fighting with the National Department to a certain extent for the programs that are run at that level, and we still have a big fight with the banks on the credit guarantee scheme as to how they have implemented that particular one, which has only reached 20%, not 20 billion out of 200 billion. But I think also there isn't a proper understanding of the terms and conditions of that particular scheme, which we need to engage with at a different time. Honorable Mshengu, thank you as well, and I think your passion for the environment in accordance with the mandate is appreciated, and it can only be supportive of the work that we are trying to do. There wasn't time to cover everything in the report, but just yesterday, for example, there was engagement with the international institutional framework as to how we are going to measure the greenhouse gas emissions. Because now there has to be a determination as to what they call a determination as to what our targets are in South Africa, what our commitments are in South Africa. And the team has done a lot of work, which perhaps should be an item on the portfolio committee agenda as soon as possible, that they have disaggregated which are the main sectors that are contributing to the greenhouse gases, and then what kind of mitigation measures that are going to be put in place. So I think, I'm not aware of many I don't think there are many Trumpians in South Africa, those who are climate change denialists. I don't think there are any significant people at all. So we have the ability to create a solidly united position on a program as far as climate change is concerned. We accept your commitment to robust oversight, and I think the employee costs, as far as Mvelo is concerned, yes, it's a concern, and it's something that we're going to have to deal with. It's going to be linked to economic growth and revenue enhancement. I think I've made the point in the portfolio committee that it will be interesting to look at an age analysis of the employees of Mvelo. So we're a little bit stuck with a particular historic legacy, and we're going to have to find a creative way to renew and rejuvenate that particular workforce. Of course, in accordance with the laws that we have to comply with, and with great cooperation with organized labor, whom we always engage with. I think the public meeting, I think you spoke about, and yes, it's a matter of concern. I'm dealing with Honorable Naidu's question at the same time. There were these very nasty incidents, but it's not just vandalism, it's actually misguided sabotage in pursuance of a particular objective. And it's fundamentally a problem of alienation of communities, and we have to deal with that collectively. I mean, for some reason, some people thought that if they did that and made the demand of so many jobs, then you're going to cave in. And Mvelo could not, because the kind of model that he was requesting for just one, not just one ward, just one isigodi, was an unreasonable, unsustainable demand. But the broad commitment of working with our communities, maximizing employment opportunities, especially for our young people, I mean, there can't be any doubt about that as a priority. Honorable Speaker Sapeta, thank you for your contribution. I've often said that you are amongst, again, the most passionate of the climate change activists, and I think you don't pull your punches in holding us to account. Yeah, the greenhouse gas point I made earlier was more in response to your particular, to your very sharp question. I think the waste management side, and we want to accept that challenge. We've already put it to the departmental officials working with municipalities. How do we deal with recycling? We certainly can't do everything at one time, but I think you will support us if we said, let's start off with 3 to 5 municipalities and landfill sites where we implement these as pilots and develop a model, because there's no perfect model that we have to follow. We have to experiment and make it work. But clearly the world over, recycling, waste to energy are key issues, and we commit to put much effort into that. I mean, the point, what COVID did was bring to us, and I think this is responding to many speakers, about how we are responsible for the risks that climate change brings. Because once COVID came, within 6 weeks, you could see the Himalayas from 200 kilometers away, which has not been possible for, I don't know, I think more than 100 years. Because that's the amount of pollution that we generate that it couldn't. There's lots of animals that were seen coming into near urban areas because human activity was so restricted. In fact, animals thought they could be reclaiming their space and the world. So we got to learn those lessons, and COVID is supposed to have brought us back down to earth in many ways, and we hope we don't have short memories and build on those, the lessons that have been learned. Honorable Kunene, thank you. I think a very supportive, sober message, which we accept almost wholeheartedly. We give you the commitment on the investigations. I said so in the speech, and that's work to follow. Watch that particular space. Yes, it's unfortunate that there is that situation with the CEO as far as IDZ is concerned. Unfortunately, we have to comply with the law as it stands, and I'm satisfied that the board is doing it in compliance with the law. Because, and I don't want to go into the detail of it, but it's not something that was committed while he's employed there. It was a long time ago, and there are legal implications as to how that particular thing is handled, but we're keeping a very close eye on it. Honorable Fraser, thank you very much for your broadly supportive issue, and I must add my voice to the support for the Palestinian people, especially about this point in time. It can be nothing short of a tragic and unacceptable violation of basic human rights, not only in terms of the original sin, as I may put it, but here you're saying you've done me wrong, and when I try to take up the issue and fight you, you're going to smash me. That's what it's all about. That's what it's basically saying. Because I have the power to do so, and I have very powerful friends who will help me to do so. And that we must all raise our voice against. Honorable Rajbansi, thank you as well for your support, and we agree with you almost entirely in what you have said. Honorable Devu, there's something called schizophrenia. And there was a little bit of reflection of that in your first input and your second input, and I thought your second input you tried to come back to some level of sobriety. But you see, we don't mind sharp criticism. We can engage in a debate. But don't take us for fools, as if we don't understand anything. Don't undermine our people as if they don't know what they're doing when they vote us in, and continue to vote us in as demonstrated by the by-elections that we've seen. Because there's two things. Firstly, there are deep underlying issues about our history which informs our particular positions on matters. And you should be extremely grateful for the historical analysis and position of the African National Congress throughout its 9 years of existence. I mean, it's been a very generous position. Otherwise, it would, in almost every other part of the world, it would have been a civil war for winners take all. We've always been informed by an analysis that seeks to take us into the future in a sustained way. You don't have the burden of having to deal with millions of unemployed people or people living in poverty. Those are our constituencies which we have to deal with on a daily basis, and we have to devise programs that seeks to respond to them. That doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. But to try, as you did in your first session, where it was just, and I was disappointed because I wouldn't have expected it from you, because you came with a series of slogans or newspaper headlines just trying to condemn us. And that I can't debate with you in a respectful way if you're going to come with that kind of attitude, showing no deep analysis of it. I come back to the fact that there's no secret that we have made mistakes. And the current period is described by us as a period of renewal, as a period of dealing with those things. And that understanding is so clear that you are feeling the political fallout on that. That is why the ANC is winning elections. That is why you got no political space to move. That is why you've been eaten by the FF on one side, and even other small organizations like the Patriotic Alliance are leaving you isolated because you don't have a solid and proper understanding of the challenges that we face as a country and the deep consciousness that many of us have as to what needs to be done to take us in line with the Freedom Charter. That, I think, you must go and do some homework. But as I said in your second session, you did come back to try to say you want to contribute to building, and so I'm going to accept that as your final position and your final answer as far as it is concerned, and continue to keep our hand out in trying to build our country together. Again, you can't just cheapen the attitude to critical programs like Operation Vula. I mean, you try to describe it as some mindless response. It's not. It's trying to do something that's responding to a critical challenge. Because your approach will be to say, no, just carry on with a completely free market approach. These constituencies that you talk about ultimately are your constituencies. And maybe I should forgive you because you need to be heard by your constituencies to be saying these things so that you are batting for them. But on an objective analysis, it's fighting for a small minority of interests which we are seeking to change. Not that that small minority does not have an interest. In this new portfolio, I've been to St. Lucia, I've been to Sodwana Bay, I've been to Kosi Bay, and I've seen who owns the majority of those tourism opportunities. And it's a historically privileged class. But we still went and we're saying we want to work with them. We're building partnerships with those who are emerging and those who are established. But I think your attitude must change to say how you're going to add value to building that particular partnership. I don't think we've positioned ourselves internationally as isolating ourselves. I think we have a pretty decent non-aligned position, progressive, yes, on many political issues. But we also recognize the reality of the world. Earlier in the presentation, I said that China is going to have an 8.1% economic growth rate. India is going to have 11.3%. Those are realities that we must be able to deal with and respond to. That doesn't mean we make enemies of anybody else in terms of economic policy. And in any event, analyze who are our trade partners. I mean, the balance is still heavily in favor of our the historic trading partners of the European Union, the United States to a certain extent, Britain, Germany, and so on. Those are still major trading partners and investments. So we're not rejecting them. In fact, we still encourage them to come and invest, but we're also extending the hand to the whole wide world, which apartheid denied us. And now because we want to do that, you're saying somehow that is wrong. No, that can't be right, and we reject that particular attitude. Honorable, they mustn't leave me without any time on but let's leave. I think Honorable Duma has raised some important debates which we need to unpack much more clearly, because that's where the real debate is. Because with respect, Honorable Debu, we are distracted with your debate, but the real debate is in the issues that Honorable Duma is raising. And firstly, there can be no confusion as to what our position is as the African National Congress. It's not, I mean, we are all disciplined cadres for some time, so we are commanded by the position of our party. We are a disciplined force of the left. I mean, that's been a historic position. Every day we must ask ourselves whether we are a disciplined force of the left in what we are doing. We believe in a mixed economy. We'll deal with an issue on the balance of evidence on any particular issue, and we won't be mindless. About it. So the Black Industrialist Program is a program of our government. It's a program nationally. It's a program provincially. And I think you all know that our Premier has been a passionate a promoter of that particular program. But it is a program that is located amongst many programs. We are not happy with the outcome. The wrong words, not happy. We are happy that the program is being implemented. We want the outcomes to be more reflective of the demographics of our province. And that comes to your first sharp question. It can't be of any space and doubt. If we say South Africa belongs to all, we want everybody to have fair opportunity, and if the racial breakdown of our province happens to be what it is, which is 86% Black African and 8% Indian and 4% white and 1% colored approximation, then broadly we should trying to achieve that all of us receive a fair slice of the cake, and that is what we must be able to work to in a sustainable way. So there can't be any doubt about that particular aspect, Honorable Duma. I think also, if you just give me a little bit flexible, Honorable Chair, I want us to look at some pilot cases of empowerment and see, has it worked? If it's worked, how can we replicate it? If it's not worked, why and how we can remedy it? And the first one would be an example like RBM, which is arguably the biggest mining company in KZN. RBM is owned by Rio Tinto in the main to 74%, if I recall correctly. And then there's a company called Blue Horizon, which owns, supposed to be the empowerment vehicle, another 24%, and I think 2% is owned by workers. Is that model working? And what are the tensions that are happening now in the land which is controlled by Amakosi, who are not necessarily part of the Blue Horizon model, and then even below Amakosi to people on the ground as to how they want to see their interests reflected. That is the real challenge and debate that we need to engage in without losing the next 7.5 billion rand that's going to go into a program called Zulti South, which is probably going to be the biggest single investment, ready to roll out, but held back by some disputes and divisions. But we are South Africans, we are resilient, we will find creative solutions to these problems and challenges, and I have no doubt if we're really united under the leadership of our provincial government, we will be able to do that. Thank you for listening, and may all of you have a good weekend. See you.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. We have come to the end of this engagement. So we want to indicate to you, MEC, that my office is open after this so that we audit the minutes that you are complaining about. So the vote for debate has come to an end. We want to thank the MEC and honorable members, officials from Edtea and the legislature, and the public at large who are part of this through connective measures. So we are wishing all of you safe journey home. Please wait for the schedule as to when is the next engagement, because I understand that we have not completed the budget debates. Thank you very much. No, I didn't want you to raise that.